Did you say one or no?
No, you don't. Not supposed to say one.
You don't say one?
So you say 3, 2, and then
I was just
one?
waiting on one.
Did you not? You never watched Wayne's World? 3, 2.
I mean, I think I watched Wayne's World like in the early 90s when it came
I watched
out.
Wayne's World when you were a baby, Ian.
What fucking? Oh, you have not seen Wayne's World?
It's like the classic joke in. It's not. It's a classic.
That joke.
Why are you
is
clipping?
Wayne's World
What is
older than?
happening
Yeah,
with
what is
you?
going on?
What's happening?
Call
I'm
your tech
excited.
guy.
I'm sorry, I'll turn it down. Excitable.
God damn it,
Is it
Ian.
clipping?
No,
Am I
you're
clipping?
like clicking. It's like a
You
clicking
sound
sound.
literally
You sound
terrible.
Terrible.
Because
You might be the worst person we've ever had on this show.
Second worst. We haven't played the
What about
worst.
Yeah.
Oh God, I don't got to do crosswalks, Tom.
What do you have to do?
The
Oh
fucking
no.
captcha with
God
crosswalks.
damn
I know
this
I'm gonna
fucking
fuck
thing.
it up too. I'm gonna fuck it up, and it's not gonna work, and I'm gonna get mad.
I hate trying
Is
to do
that
those
crosswalks?
captchas when I don't have my glasses on. It's basically impossible.
Bicycles? There's no bicycles. That's a fucking moped.
Ridiculous.
Oh, I'm gonna kill you. I swear to God. Oh, this is the worst. Ian, why do we do this all the time? What did you do?
That's a good point.
it.
Ian, what did you
is
do?
that?
I didn't do it.
Is that an AI?
Yeah. This is the Dolly Mini. So I put in. Well, guess what it is?
It is.
What in the world?
It is.
Guess what I typed in to get to this conclusion?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to.
No.
I don't know.
Chat. What do you think? Come on, chat.
I would look at chat, but I can't because
Old men yelling at tech. No, that's not what it was.
that is me. That's me
Facebook.
right now.
All right, Cecil. Here's that dessert I was telling you about.
Okay.
There it is.
dessert-
Citizen Gold got it.
The
Trump as
dessert-
Napoleon.
The dessert is pork belly
Okay. Pork
as a
belly.
dessert.
Pork belly sounds awesome. I'm waiting.
Whiskey braised pork belly served with Luxardo red cherry ice cream and a reduction of dark brown sugar syrup.
I'd try that.
I'm 100%. Look, you had me at a Luxardo cherry ice cream. That sounds so goddamn good.
I'm trying to get chat up right
Painfully
now because
good.
this is like. So we're a little early tonight, guys. We're early because we have a lot to do. And so we'll tell you what we're going to do here in a second, but we got to call chat up first. That's important, an important part of this process. I'm supposed to log in here, and it's saying illegal passwords. I'm just going to go to the Restream site and see if I can just get in there.
It won't let you in.
I can't figure it out right now.
Do you want me to text you the password? Oh, no, you know the password?
I thought I did, but I'm going to try it again.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Password.
Okay, I
You
got
know that joke? Come on.
So
Come on, Tom. You know the
that's
joke.
like
1, 2, 3,
that's
4, 5.
that's like something
No,
an
what?
idiot would put on his luggage.
Fair Cecil.
What is it
Tom, you owe him
from?
$10.
It's from Spaceballs.
Oh my god.
You owe him $10. Come on.
I am the worst at remembering fucking movie
Where's
lines.
chat.
That's
How do I get to chat in here, Ian?
God, I cannot do that.
Go to chat.restream.io. It's the easiest. Like, that's the URL.
Oh my god! If I have to enter my password again, I swear to God, I'm gonna fucking go
No,
through that.
you
I will
won't.
go
I
through. So it's chat.restream.io.
This is going well.
Awesome. There we go. Thank God.
Oh god.
Jesus Christ. It's like trying to navigate
Why
here,
is-
and then it fucking kicks me off every time. It's like every fucking time it kicks me off this stupid chat app they have, and now it's making me like do fucking like doodles and like figure out.
Is there not like an app for this? Like you have to go to this like on a fucking web browser
God,
every
it's so
time? We can't just stay
frustrating. It's-
logged in?
This is what I'm at
There
now.
is an app.
That's what I was using, this stupid app. I am going to go full boomer. I'm so angry about the whole thing. Tom, before we get
Yes,
started,
sir.
while we're waiting for people to come in, I want to play something I found today that was on. Oh, wrong thing. I want to play this for you. Now, do you remember Police Academy? Do you remember that?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Oh my god, like a million years ago.
Yeah. So Police Academy,
Which one?
all of them had
They're all the
had
same.
one guy in it who would make sound.
Yes, the
Michael
black dude that made
Michael
the crazy
Winslow. So I'm
sounds.
going to play this for
Yeah.
you. This is Michael Winslow.
Also in Spaceballs.
I'm going to play this for you here. real
I
quick.
loved that guy as a kid.
Dude, this is fucking amazing. And I'm going to play this for you and for everybody at home. Here we go.
Well, I don't.
You don't hear it at all?
You don't hear it?
No, I don't think it's playing.
Okay.
I don't think it's for the stream.
Hold on a second. I got it.
right.
Thank you, Ian. Let's start it over.
The radar is jammed. Very good.
Let me set up the drums here.
Yeah, so which song is it? Which song is it?
How's the volume, Ian?
Good. No, it's good.
What? This is fucking insane, dude.
Yeah. What you want to do? Led Zeppelin. And, you want to do the original artist key of E?
Yeah.
All right. Like
listen.
That's him.
What is even happening right now?
That is him.
Holy shit!
That's fucking neat. That fucking guitar is amazing. It's amazing. What? It's only a couple minutes long, but it's outstanding. This guy is just... Holy shit, what is... That's fucking... He's doing that with his face? Outstanding. I would listen to a whole album of this.
I want to watch him though.
How the feedback? What? It's doing feedback even.
Yeah, he's a
That's
god.
fucking
That is
outstanding.
unreal.
That is fucking outstanding.
All
I
right.
saw that today and I was just like, that dude, I was like, when I was a kid, he was like, he's the guy who can make the siren sound.
Yeah,
I didn't think he was- I was
yes.
like, whatever, that's the guy. And when I saw this, I had to look him up because that's what it says, Michael Winslow. And I was like, I don't remember who he was. And then I looked up and I was like, Police Academy. I was like, what is he gonna make a siren sound? Like, what's gonna happen? And it fucking blew me away today. It was like one of those when he makes the sound of the guitar.
It's unreal.
It's unreal. It's unreal.
All right, Ian, now you go.
Ian, go. Actually, it sounds kind of like your normal. Yeah. So
thanks.
That's unfucking believable.
Yeah.
Okay, Matt's Politics says Von Canto does this, but using 4 people singing into guitar amps. I kind of thought we heard about Von Canto
Yeah, a
on
long
this
time
show,
ago, yeah.
and I listened to it as a joke, and then I kind of accidentally loved it, and then I played it for my kid. This is like 5-6 years ago, and he used to request it in the car.
Nice,
So we would like
nice.
listen to goddamn Von Canto unironically in the car.
I just thought it was fucking amazing. So I just wanted to
Man.
share that with everybody. Tom, we're gonna try. A little bit of whiskey before
right.
we get started, and then I'm going to tell people what we're going to do. So we're
Okay.
waiting for people
Yep.
to filter in. We said it was going to be 8 o'clock, so we're waiting for people to filter in a little. So what we need is we need a tiny
All right.
little shot of
Yeah.
larceny. So we're
this
drinking.
is. I want to show the
Yeah,
color.
show it. Show
I
it.
got to show the color. So here's what we did. So I know listeners to the stream know this already because we've done it like 4 times. But we bought this whiskey and it was like relatively cheap whiskey. Larceny's not an
Larceny's like
expensive whiskey.
$25 a bottle.
So and we saved a little bit, and then the rest of it we poured into this mason jar, and then we put a toasted oak curl, like a little curly Q in here. The color difference.
The color difference is amazing. You can
is
just see it.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
So all right, we're gonna go.
Little tiny
Reference
tiny
sample?
splash of this stuff. We don't
Reference
have a lot,
sample?
so. And larceny's good bourbon anyway. Like larceny is good bourbon
it's a
just
fine
in
bourbon.
general. Like
Yep.
it's a fine bourbon.
Nothing wrong with larceny.
Really good.
Good drinkable. Good
so-
drinkable booze.
So I'm gonna take like a little tiny sip of this, and then we're gonna try the other one. Let's try the other. Let's put the other one in. So next to it.
I only got the one glass, but that's
Oh,
all right.
I'll get you another one?
Oh, sorry. It was my mistake. I should have asked for 2.
Did you ever listen to Bobby McFerrin, like doing his?
Bobby McFerrin's money. I had no idea. I heard about I always thought him as the fucking don't worry, be happy guy.
Yeah.
And then
No, he
like
does
that dude's
insane stuff.
legit, crazy legit.
Yeah.
All right, so
All right.
I'm excited.
I'm going to try
because
this one out.
Worked
This one,
2 out of 3 times.
I will say this one is definitively markedly different looking.
Crazy different.
So let's try. I'm going to try the reference bourbon first.
All right.
Here we go. Larceny is excellent bourbon. That is great.
Absolutely nothing wrong with
That
that.
is absolutely nothing wrong with that bourbon. I would drink that bourbon all night long. Here we go. This is so it smells woody already. So much more flavor. So much more flavor.
Wow.
That really brings out the caramel notes in it. It's really sweet
It's like,
now.
yeah, I was going to say, somehow it sweetens it. And I don't know why it
Yeah.
sweetens it, but it does. It legitimately sweetens it.
By a lot, too.
Brings a vanilla into it.
Yeah, it's really good.
That's really fucking good. This works.
Yeah, that works.
You guys, this worked on every drink except for
the Ancient
Age, which
Ancient
was
Age
just,
was the only one.
it was so bland, I don't think anything could have rescued
I
it.
will do this in the future for myself. I'm going to go buy decanters and just do
There you
this.
go.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and I might actually take like a little bit of fishing line or maybe butcher's twine so I could pull it out of there eventually so it's not
So it doesn't
constantly
sit there forever?
stuck in there. Like maybe after 6 weeks or something, you're like, that's enough of that.
I wonder if it can get too much.
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. All right.
How great is that?
Everybody, thanks for joining us early. Here's what we're going to do tonight. So what we're planning on doing is we had initially planned on watching the January 6th hearing that was on Monday morning. So Tom and I had planned to watch it maybe a little ahead of time. I had planned to maybe cut some of the procedural stuff out of it, and then we could watch it together, and we would just watch it like we did the last one, except for we wouldn't have it wouldn't be as long. There wouldn't be as many breaks, and we would basically cut it out. Well, then we didn't realize that they were showing another one today. So I did all that work on that, and then essentially we weren't going to use it. So what I did was I cut it even further. So we're going to start the night by watching Mondays, but I cut down most of it down into 25 minutes so that Tom and I could watch it with you and we could give you some of the highlights. If you want to watch the whole thing, I encourage you 100%. Don't take my edit for, fucking gospel. There's more to it. There's a lot more to it. Go watch it. Then we're going to watch the one that happened today afterwards. Now that's almost 2 hours long. It's almost 2 hours long. We didn't cut a lot of it out. I will tell you what we cut when we get there, but we're not going to talk about that yet. We're going to watch the first one right now, and we're just going to jump right into it. So we're going to watch Mondays. It's only 25 minutes, but I think we have most of what we need based on what I cut. So let's put it on and let's get started.
Yep.
All right, so here we go. I believe it's this one.
I am in love with this right now.
Former President Trump's plan to overturn the election relied on a sustained effort to deceive millions of Americans with knowingly false claims of election fraud. All elements of the plot relied on convincing his supporters about these false claims. Today,
Okay, I want to check chat right now. Ian, monitor chat. How loud is it? Is it too loud? Is it loud enough? I turned it down a little because it was a little loud for us, but I can turn it back up and turn my headphones down. So let us know.
Okay.
Let us know if
To
it
me, it
sounds
sounds
okay.
okay,
Well,
but
let
yeah.
us know in chat if it sounds okay. All right, I'm going to keep going. Ian, if it needs to get turned up, just jump in, okay?
Yeah, Chad says perfect.
Okay.
will demonstrate the 2020 election was not stolen. The American people elected President Joe Biden. Will present evidence that Mr. Trump's claims of election fraud were false, that he and his closest advisors knew those claims were false, but they continued to peddle them anyway, right up until the moments before a mob of Trump supporters attacked the Capitol.
Some would say even
Will
after.
also show
Yeah.
that the
So
Trump
say now.
campaign
He's still
used these
pushing
false
that narrative.
claims of election fraud to raise hundreds of millions of dollars from supporters
That's
who were told
bullshit.
their
250
donations
million in his
were
own
for
PAC.
the legal fight in the courts. But the Trump campaign didn't use the money for that. The big lie was also a big ripoff. The former president laid the
It was a fucking
groundwork
grift,
for these
man.
false claims
Everybody
well in
else gets
advance
arrested
of the
for that
election.
shit.
I know.
As early as April 2020, Mr. Trump claimed that the only way he could lose an election would be as a result of fraud.
You know the things with bundling and all of the things that are happening with
Bundling.
Votes by mail, where thousands of votes are gathered, and I'm not going to say which party does it, but thousands of votes are gathered and they come in and they're dumped in a location, and then all of a sudden you lose elections that you think you're going to win.
The only way we're going to lose this election is if the election is rigged. Remember that. It's the only way we're going to lose this election.
This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen. Did you see what's going on? Take a look at West Virginia, mailmen selling the ballots. They're being sold. They're being
his
dumped
face.
in rivers.
Biden is like,
This
what
a
is
horrible
happening?
Thing for our country.
There is no-
this is not.
there is no
this is not
evidence
going
of
to
that.
end well.
What a fucking disaster.
Mr. Trump decided even before the election that regardless of the facts and the truth, if he lost the election,
saying the same thing in
he would
2016.
claim
He was.
it was rigged.
He does
Mr.
that
Trump
to,
was right about
yeah,
one thing.
Right, yeah, because he's
It
a
did not
fucking
end well.
baby. He's a sore
On
loser.
election night, Mr. Trump claimed even before the votes were counted that his loss was a result of fraud. Now, Thursday, we had testimony from Attorney General Barr about the Department of Justice investigation of Mr. Trump's fraud claims. Barr told Trump directly that his claims were BS. Yet, after hearing the truth and that warning
She looked like
from
she
the AG,
got away with
Mr.
something.
I know.
Trump
She's-
continued
this
to
is a lady
peddle
that does not
false
swear.
claims of fraud.
It was
You'll hear detailed testimony from Attorney General Barr describing the various election fraud claims the Department of Justice investigated. He'll tell you how he told Mr. Trump repeatedly that there was no merit to those claims. Mr. Barr will tell us that Mr. Trump's election night claims of fraud were made without regard to the truth and before it was even possible to look for evidence of fraud. Attorney General Barr wasn't alone. You'll see and hear today other Department of Justice officials and senior advisors to Mr. Trump that they told him the claims he was making were not supported by evidence. The election fraud claims were false. Mr. Trump's closest advisors knew it. Mr. Trump knew it. That didn't stop him from pushing the false claims and urging his supporters to, quote, fight like hell, to, quote, take back their country. After he lost the election, various legal challenges were made. You'll hear testimony today from a renowned Republican election litigation lawyer who will explain the normal process by which candidates challenge an election. Rather than accept the results of the election and the decisions of the courts, Mr. Trump pursued a different strategy. He tried to convince the American people the election had been stolen. Many of his supporters believed him, and many still believe him today. The attack on January 6th was a direct and predictable result of Mr. Trump's decision to use false claims of election fraud to overturn the election and to cling to power.
All right, I put in a little spaces so we can talk
That's not-
once in
yeah.
a while. Just want to say that lady looks like my late mom a little bit. It's kind of funny. Like I look at her and I'm like, kind of looks like my late mom.
Would your mom have T-heed at BS?
No, my mom taught me how to say cocksucker when I was 4 years old. Got the shit slapped out of me for that when I was a kid. I'm sure I told that story where my mom said it in the car and I was like, Mom, what's a cocksucker? And she's like, don't say that. And then I get home and I tell her, I basically say it when I get home and she screams at me. She actually filled my mouth with soap. But in any case, this is laying out the case. This is the very beginning of this piece.
Yep.
And it's her laying out the case to say, look, he knew. He fucking knew.
Yep.
And he didn't care. And all he wanted to do was protect himself the whole time. And he kept on peddling these lies. And it's lie after lie.
And it matters that he knew, right? So because in order for there to be a fraud, there has to be intent.
Yeah.
And you can't have intent if you're operating entirely on what you think are honest principles, then but this was all he always knew this was bullshit.
Yeah.
Everybody around him,
He was told.
every single person around him was like, "This is bullshit."
And you're not the president without 100 experts around you.
Yeah.
And if you didn't surround yourself with expertise that could have told you, then you're at fault. You're the one. You're the
Right.
one in charge.
Yep.
So that they're making sure that they mention this over and over.
Yep.
We got a super chat
Oh, go ahead.
real quick, which says, watching this committee must be like what the Q nut bars thought they were going to feel like. So satisfying to be vindicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope it's more than just an exercise
I hope so
in
too.
investigative stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it better be more
I
than
hope-
just.
It feels like a case, man.
It feels like a case. I feel you, man. I'm right
Feels
there
like a
with you.
case.
And the timing is
it feels
right
like a
on.
case, though.
Yeah.
There were suggestions by, I believe it was Mayor Giuliani, to go into
Okay, I cut out all the Mayor Giuliani's drunk stuff If you
'Cause
want
who
to go
gives a
find
shit?
it, if you want to go
Yeah.
find it, you can find it. But I basically cut out all that stuff. They're like, yeah, he was fucking totally wasted. If you want to know that Rudy Giuliani was wasted, just look at him one time and you'll know he was wasted.
Isn't it a fair assumption that he's always wasted?
Like,
If-
I imagine that he walks through life high on 4 different things.
Dude, if I woke up and I was Rudy Giuliani, there's no amount of shit I would not start
100%.
taking.
I would
leaving Las Vegas myself.
Declare victory and say that we won it outright.
It was far too early to be making any calls like that. Ballots were still being counted. Ballots were still going to be counted for days. And it was far too early to be making any proclamation like that.
I remember saying that, to the best of my memory, I was saying that we should not go.
Sorry, his mask he gives him a Hannibal Lecter kind of appearance.
Okay, can you be more specific about that conversation, in particular what Mayor Giuliani said, your response, and then anybody else in the room's response?
I think effectively Mayor Giuliani was saying, we won it. They're stealing it from us. Where'd all the votes come from? We need to go say that we won. And essentially that anyone who didn't agree with that position was being weak.
What was your view at the time as to what he should or shouldn't say?
take a long time to answer.
I don't know that I had a firm view as to what he should say in that circumstance. The results were still being
Fucking
counted.
Westworld.
100%.
It was becoming clear that the race would not be called on election night.
My belief, my recommendation was to say that votes were still being counted. It's too early to tell, too early to call the race, but we
That guy should be closer to the
proud
camera.
of the race we ran, and we think
What are you
think
doing?
we're in good position, and we'll have more to say
Kind of
about
looks like he's
this,
rubbing one out too.
It does. What are you writing this down? It's being fucking recorded,
And
man.
did anybody who was a part of that conversation disagree with your message?
Yes,
Who do you want to throw
Who
under the
was that?
bus?
Yeah.
the president disagreed with that. I don't recall the particular words. He thought I was wrong. He told me so, and that they were gonna go he was gonna go in a different direction.
Go in a
This is a
different
fraud.
direction.
This is the night.
on
This
the
is
American
election night.
public. This is an embarrassment to our country. We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election. We did win.
Irresponsible. You should be prosecuted. Irresponsible.
That's it. That's it.
I recounted back to that conversation.
I cut again
with him,
here. Her talking.
in which I said, just like I said in 2016 was going to be a long night. I told him in 2020 that it was going to be a process again, as the early returns are going to be positive, and we're going to be watching the returns of ballots as they rolled in thereafter.
So is it fair
I was trying to
say
explain to him how it was going to work. This is like, hear what he is not saying.
Yeah.
This is a guy who's like, look, I was trying to tell the president how this actually works. Yeah. And he was like, no, it will work a different way if I yell it loud
If I just say it over and over again, people will just pick it up. And that's what happened. It's literally what happened.
True, because it's worked for, the thing is, you can almost forgive the thought process because it has worked
his whole life.
His whole life.
His whole life.
Yep.
trying to present what you thought would be a realistic picture of what might happen over the course of that night, being election night?
That night and the days that followed. Yeah, I always told the president the truth, and I think he expected that from me, and I told him it was going to be a process. It was going to be, we're going to have to wait and see how this turned out. So I just like I did in 2016, I did the same thing in 2020.
So let's watch a short clip of President Trump speaking after he received that information from his campaign advisor.
I mean, this is so good.
It's so good.
We want all voting to stop. We don't want them to find any ballots at 4 o'clock in the morning and add them to the list.
We don't want to count what you want. We want a representative democracy to not include the votes that
were cast. That were cast legally.
Yeah.
And that's what he wanted. He was ahead in places. Look at his language when he was like, stop the count. It wasn't stop the count in Arizona.
No, I know. Keep counting over here. Don't
Stop
count
counting
over there.
Wherever I'm winning, stop
Do
counting.
more. Yeah.
Wherever I'm not winning, keep counting until I win.
Yeah,
Find me more votes.
Yeah.
That's what he called. He called the guy on the phone and told him
Find me
more votes.
11,000 votes.
Yeah. So like you're absolutely right. This is something he's done his whole life.
Yep.
I put a 5 minutes, 5 second thing in there. Hopefully.
I kind of hope it was 5 minutes. That'd be really funny. We just sat in silence.
The president did get rid of Team Normal.
Team
and I'd
Normal.
like to play a clip
Yeah.
showing
Team
that
Normal
the
and Team
president found the
Giuliani.
people he
Those are the
needed.
two teams within his.
This is the
Perpetuate
Team
his
Crazy.
claims of
Here's
fraud.
Team Crazy, guys.
They saw a big truck bringing in 100,000 ballots in garbage cans, in waste paper baskets,
Those are
in
garbage cans.
cardboard boxes, and in shopping baskets. And every single one of them was for Biden because they were being notified by Smartmatic in Frankfurt that Biden was way behind and they better come up with a lot more ballots.
Fucking idiot.
And we can prove every single thing I just said.
You literally will not prove
Gave me
any of
the
those things.
ballots. I could probably turn around each one of these states. I'm absolutely convinced if you let me examine each one of those ballots, I pull out enough that were fraudulent that it would shake the hell out of the country.
It can set and run an algorithm that probably ran all over the country to take a certain percentage of votes from President Trump and flip them to President Biden, which we might never have uncovered had the votes for President Trump not been so overwhelming in so many of these states that it broke the algorithm.
I remember
Well,
that one of the things Mark
anywhere
said
there.
at some point was, you can't show an actual vote was flipped, which I found at the time to be a remarkable assertion because you don't have to have the gun to see the body lying on the floor bleeding out with 5 bullet
What are
holes
you
in it was
talking
killed
about?
by a gun.
What they were proposing, I thought was nuts. And in theory was also
Look
completely
at,
nuts.
pause this real quick. You got to pause this. All I want to talk about
Is his panda bear art or his justice bat?
what is happening
Which
back
do you
there.
want to talk about? Hold on. Heads, we talk about justice bat. Tails, we talk about panda bear. Actually, can you do a poll? Ian?
Wait a minute. Are you excluding the weird metal toupees sticking out of the wall?
I don't know what those are, and I can't speculate on those. I know what the other two are. Okay, hold on. I gotta go to chat now. I gotta see
What are those guys?
What does everybody want to talk about? I gotta look at now.
Is that a panda or is it a gerbil? It's brown.
Is it a gerbil? It's not a gerbil.
Well, it's got a brown. You ever seen a brown panda?
You ever seen? Hold on a second.
You ever seen a grown man naked?
Have you ever seen anything black get justice?
Okay, that's way worse. Okay.
That was amazing.
All right.
Where even is he?
I don't know.
Where are you? What is on the wall?
He's at 4 seasons total.
What the fuck is? Where are you interviewing this man? Yeah, I'll sit for the fucking House Select Committee video.
He's at some weird
deposition.
He's at some weird verbo.
Right.
It's like rented and
right. I got to go to this fucking weird modern art museum or whatever.
I want you to hurry up because I got that spear cooking lady in the kitchen.
What the fuck? I mean, like, this looks like an art gallery. Look at the lights above it.
Yeah.
That looks hot and uncomfortable to have in your house. Doesn't it? Where are you?
Okay. We need a poll in the thing. Ian, can you put a poll together?
Are we doing the panda gerbil or the justice
I think
bat?
what we're
Okay.
doing is, would you have this art in your house? The hair reminds someone of Better Call Saul. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Fucking so weird.
That's so good. All right.
I'm accused of treason. It's okay. I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express.
All right, let me call this.
He's at a Panda Express. The fuck? It's all I care about right now.
Let's hear what Louisville
this?
Slugger has to
I'm eating a
say.
Thin Mint. You want a Thin Mint?
Yeah, I'll have a Thin Mint.
I have a Thin Mint, buddy.
I'm going to finish this whiskey, though.
Yeah.
The poll wording is exactly: would you own this art, or would you?
And you got to tell us what it says.
There you
later,
go, bud.
Okay.
Would you own this art?
What is that art?
Okay, lean away from the mic. People were upset last time.
Oh my!
Eating into the mic.
Or
Push it
would
away.
You have
Push it away.
this art in your
Here we go.
home?
Right. I mean, there's a combination.
It's just on
of
YouTube,
Italians,
everybody.
Germans. I mean, different things have been floating around as to who was involved. I remember Hugo Chavez and the Venezuelan. She has an affidavit from somebody who says they wrote a software in. It's something with the Philippines and just all over the radar.
Did you ever share, Mr. Kushner, your view of Mr. Giuliani?
This guy is so
Did you ever
weird
share
looking.
your perspective about him?
That's
as
a
the
lizard
president?
person.
Oh yeah.
I guess. Yes.
Tell me what you said.
Basically, not the approach I would take if I was you.
Okay. And how did he react? How did President Trump react when you shared that view with him?
He made me lick his face with my forked tongue.
I have confidence in Rudy.
I think I had conversations with probably all of our council who are signed up to assist on election day as they disengaged with the campaign.
Everyone is throwing everyone else under the bus.
100%. Oh, I totally was the guy that said I was bullshit.
The law firms were not comfortable making
someone eat a crackle bar? What's going on?
He was making publicly.
Like, why would you mic the stenographer?
A similar conversation with most
It's his
all.
fucking money, though, or he's money.
Oh, yeah.
Doing it.
Agree with the idea of saying the election was stolen and putting out this stuff, which I told the president was bullshit.
I hate Bill Barr.
Can we
But
just let's just do something real quick and I fucking hate this guy too.
I hate him.
Yeah.
He is not a darling of the left just because at the fucking penultimate moment he agreed to do every evil thing but this.
Yeah. He's a piece of shit.
But I do like the big dick energy that he sits with.
You know what? Here's the thing, man. He's the kind of guy though that like I feel like if anybody walks away from this, it's gonna be him.
Oh,
You know
he's
what I mean?
fine.
He's gonna be fine.
He's fine.
I don't care.
Oh, he's skating. That's why he's that. Look at him. That's why he's sitting there like without a care in the fucking world.
Yeah.
That's why he's fucking man spreading his way through this fucking select house committee hearing.
Hate him so much.
Oh,
though.
so much.
Hate him so much.
He's a piece of human garbage.
And
I can't
Andy
wait.
Dick is his attorney over here.
I know,
and-
right?
Yeah.
Guys like Bill Barr are in the category where like I mean this. I welcome the news when they die.
Yeah.
When they die, I'm going to be like,
the world's a better
oh.
place. The world is a better place without that person. Because there's a chance that they could do another fucking black line Mueller report.
Yes, right.
There's another chance that
when
that can
fucking
happen.
Rumsfeld died, I was like, fucking good.
A. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
Yeah. If he could have only died 1,000,000 times to match the amount of Iraqis he killed, right?
You know, I didn't want to be a part of it, and that's one of the reasons that went into me deciding to leave when I did.
Well, see, the ship was sinking, and as a rat,
Even
I felt
Sidney
like I had to
Powell,
abandon it.
Defending herself in a
is
defamation
awesome.
lawsuit
Sidney
brought by
Powell.
Dominion Voting Systems, argued that, quote, no reasonable person would conclude that her statements were truly statements of fact.
That is
That's the
these
best.
lawsuits.
That's the best.
They fix everything.
They do. They fix they're perfect.
Yep.
Because you know what? She fucking literally outed herself.
Yep. She had well, what the fuck? She had to. It's like when they depose you and your ass is in the sling, all of a sudden these guys like, all right, now here's the thing.
Okay. What I mean to say
I
is
was just fucking around.
I'm sorry.
you
I'm really,
know,
really sorry. And I'm a stupid person.
Not sure why you guys took me seriously. It's part of like a long form stand-up routine I've been trying to work on.
It's a long con. I've been playing on myself for years.
I watched a lot of the, fucking like performance comedy stuff,
Really
and I thought I'd kind of
So there's a little more of
The
this.
department, in fact, when we
it's a lot of bar
received specific and credible allegations of fraud, made an effort to look into these to satisfy ourselves that they were without merit. And I was in the posture of trying to figure out, there was an avalanche of all these allegations of fraud that built up over a number of days, and it was like playing whack-a-mole because something would come out one day and then the next day it would be
Everybody
another
kept hitting me
issue.
because I look like a
Also,
mole.
I was influenced by the fact that all the early claims
He
that
would
I
sweat like a
understood,
whore in church trying to play whack-a-mole.
were completely bogus and silly and
He
usually
actually
based
looks
on
like the frog
complete
from Hungry-
misinformation.
or Hippo.
He does.
So I didn't
He
consider
does.
the
I
quality
slap
of
him on the
claims
back.
right out of the box to give me any, feeling that there was really substance here.
Even after his attorney general told him his claims of election fraud were false, President Trump continued to promote these claims.
I felt that things continued to deteriorate between the 23rd and the weekend of the 29th. And then on November 29th, he appeared on Maria Bartiromo's show, Sunday Futures, I believe it was, and he said that the department was missing in action.
Well, no, we had glitches where they moved thousands of votes from my account to Biden's account, and these are glitches. So they're not glitches, they're theft, they're fraud, absolute fraud. This election was over, and then they did dumps. They call them dumps, big, massive dumps in Michigan and
Like a truck.
Okay,
What?
Ian,
What?
Ian, you got to get that big, massive dumps. You got to
I
get
know,
that.
it's
It's
the best
so
soundbite
good.
in
It's so good. We're going to play it one more time for everybody.
What is with that lady's lips?
I know. She looks like she did a couple rounds with a boxer or something.
How do you get your lips done like that in a
well,
frown?
No, we had glitches where they moved thousands of votes from
Too
my
much in
account
one and it just-
to
Ooh.
Biden's account. And these
Giant
are glitches.
dumps.
So they're not glitches,
Big dumps.
They're theft.
Dumps like
they're
a truck.
Fraud, absolute
What?
fraud. This election was over, and then they did dumps. They call them dumps, big, massive dumps in Michigan and Pennsylvania. And
You're right,
all over.
Tom.
What?
The
Like,
FBI
for
and
real?
Department of Justice. I don't know. Maybe they're involved. But how people are
Why
allowed
would you
to get
get
away
fake
from this
lips
stuff-
stuck
with
in a
this stuff is
fucking
unbelievable.
grimace of despair? Why would you
Now,
do
surrounded
that?
by what he saw,
Well, I like, fine,
Barr
you want to get
told
your
the
fucking
Associated-
face done, get your face done. But like, who goes in is like, make me look upset? What? What?
Somebody implanted two frowny bananas in her face.
It's like two sad Vienna sausages were stuck to her fucking head.
Happening with your face? What the fuck is going on? You're just so sad. You look like a Star Wars villain. Oh, like a CG Star Wars villain.
Jesus.
press on December 1st that there was no evidence of election fraud. And immediately after Attorney General
No
Barr's
shit.
statement went public, Mr. Trump berated and he nearly fired Barr. But Barr persisted in telling the president that there was no evidence
Nevertheless,
to
Tom,
support
he persisted.
And the president was as mad as I've ever seen him, and he's trying to control himself.
Okay, how can you fucking distinguish that from every other time that guy threw a tantrum?
Right.
He's the maddest you've ever seen him every
All the
second of
time.
the day. 'Cause
All
he's
the
always
time.
mad about something.
The man wakes up apoplectic. Are you kidding me? He shits in a golden toilet. You think this is a guy who's got self-control? Are you fucking serious?
The president said, well, this is, killing me.
Yeah.
You
No,
didn't have to
losing is
say
not
this. You
winning.
said this
No,
because you
God.
hate Trump. You hate Trump. And then he raised...
Who
the-
talks
the
about
big
themselves
vote
like
I
that?
know. You either hate Trump or you hate his massive dumps.
dump, as he called it, in Detroit. And that, he said people saw boxes coming into the counting station at all hours of the morning and so forth. And I explained to him that I at that point, I knew the exact number of precincts in Detroit. I think it was 630 something. I said, Mr. President, there are 630 precincts in Detroit. And unlike elsewhere in the state, they centralized the counting process. So they're not counted in each precinct. They're moved to counting stations. And so the normal process would involve boxes coming in at all different hours. So there's nothing. And I said, did anyone point out to you?
What's interesting to me about this is that, like, Barr just explains to him, like, yeah, you have to put everything in one place and count it, right? Like the things aren't counted.
The process works before you can criticize it.
Right.
Yeah.
But what I found really interesting when I was thinking about this a little bit is like there's this like vicious cycle or circle that happens, right? Because prior to the election, Trump went out and told everybody in the whole world, look, there's going to be fraud. It's fraud. Look out for the fraud. There's going to be fraud. And so then when perfectly normal things happen, it gets reported back to him. Hey, there were all these suspicious things, none of which were suspicious. Yeah. But then the people were looking for things to be suspicious. They report it back to him. And then he's like, see, that was what I was talking about.
He primed them to anomaly hunt.
Right.
Yeah.
And then he bought into the anomalies.
Of course, because he wanted to believe it so bad.
Only happened because he said they were going to happen.
He wanted to believe it so bad. He motivated himself into this.
Did all the people complaining
Grand Unified Theory
about it point out to you you actually did better in Detroit than you did last time? I mean, there's no indication of fraud in Detroit. And I told him that the stuff that his people were shoveling out to the public was bullshit. I mean, that the claims of fraud were bullshit. And, he was indignant about that.
Like academic bullshit or colloquial
I think
bullshit?
It was colloquial bullshit.
Just Aaron Rabinowitz would really grill him on
voting machines, which I don't want to get into the most disturbing allegations. Disturbing in the sense that I saw absolutely zero basis for the allegations.
So did everybody else,
but
man.
They were made in such a sensational way that they obviously were influencing a lot of people, members of the public, that there was this systemic corruption in the system and that their votes didn't count and that these machines controlled by somebody else were actually determining it, which was complete nonsense. And it was being laid out there. And I told them that it was crazy stuff and they were wasting their time on that. And it was doing a grave disservice to the country.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so
Do you think he did?
Day,
oh, he definitely left.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened behind those closed doors, though.
Right.
Nobody knows, right? It's his word that says, he said, maybe I should resign, and then Trump said, accepted. Right. So that's what he said happened. Right. He said that. Who the fuck knows? Between him and Trump, who else knows, right? It's a closed door meeting.
Because all these guys throw everybody else under the bus, Who
knows, man?
So, yeah.
Maybe he was holding out. He didn't quit right away. He didn't quit on the 9th of November. He didn't quit on the 13th of November. Right. He didn't quit on the 20th of November.
Right.
He waited till fucking December to quit. So
he waited till basically Christmas.
Just maybe he was hoping it would fucking turn over too.
Yeah, I know.
You know, and now it's super easy to be like, what? I always thought it was going to fail.
Right.
Who the fuck knows what he thought? You know what I mean?
I know.
But there's a chance. I mean, what? Like my instincts tell me if somebody does something that's immoral, you should be ready to quit right away.
Yeah, right. Like I understand a handful of days while things are still like being counted, they're in flux.
Or
you're trying to calm him down.
Your couple of fucking cases get thrown out out of hand. Then you say, okay, well, there's clearly nothing.
Right.
And
There's
then
nothing
if he keeps going, you say, you know what? I just got to resign because you're a fucking crazy.
Yeah, this is not going to look good for any of us.
Yeah.
But he waited till almost Christmas.
And then most of the people that were on his staff waited till after the insurrection to even
I know.
step down. So they were all on board with the fucking election fraud stuff. They were all on board with that.
Yep. They're still on board.
They're still on. Some of them are still on board.
They're still on board.
the president released a video rehashing some of the very same claims that his chief law enforcement officer had told him were, quote, nonsense.
Look at this
Here's
shit.
an example. This is Michigan.
Massive dumps.
At 6:31 in the morning, a vote dump of 149,772 votes came in unexpectedly.
No.
We were winning by a lot. That batch was received in horror.
In what?
In horror.
That's very suspect. Its name is Dominion. With the turn of a dial
This is.
or the change of a chip,
You should get fucking sued for
you
this.
could press a button for Trump and the vote goes to Biden. What kind of a system is this?
Imaginary.
You should get fucking. You should get fucking.
Dominion should go after him.
I agree. That's fucking. You're basically slandering my company. Okay.
Yep.
Prove it. Oh, you can't.
Yep.
Give me your money. Give me all your non-existent money.
What I sincerely and truly hope is that Dominion wins the lawsuit against Fox and Newsmax, and then they use that money to finance a lawsuit against this fuckwit.
Yep. Take him. Just take him down.
Just fucking go. Just fucking
And
nail
do
this
it
guy
while
to the
he's in
fucking
prison
door.
for
Yeah,
this.
right.
This is the last segment that's coming up. I don't remember what I put in.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
This is a closing
Now
argument.
that we understand the litigation efforts by President Trump and his allies, I'd like to present additional actions taken by the Trump campaign during
This is the
time.
fraud. This is the
President
fraud.
Trump continued to push the stolen election narrative, even though he and his allies knew that their litigation efforts, making the same claim, had failed. It's worth pointing out that litigation generally does not continue past the safe harbor date of December 14th. But the fact that this litigation went on, well, that decision makes more sense when you consider the Trump campaign's fundraising tactics. Because if the litigation had stopped on December 14th, there would have been no fight to defend the election and no clear path to continue to raise millions of dollars. Mr. Chairman, at this time, I'd ask for unanimous consent to include in the record a video presentation describing how President Trump used the lies he told to raise millions of dollars from the American people. These fundraising schemes were also part of the effort to disseminate the false claims of election fraud.
Without objection, so
My name is Amanda Wick, and I'm Senior Investigative Counsel with the House Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol. Between Election Day and January 6th, the Trump campaign sent millions of fundraising emails to Trump supporters, sometimes as many as 25 a day. The emails claimed the, quote, left-wing mob was undermining the election, implored supporters to, quote, step up to protect the integrity of the election, and encouraged them to, quote, fight back. But as the Select Committee has demonstrated, the Trump campaign knew these claims of voter fraud were false, yet they continued to barrage small-dollar donors with emails, encouraging them to donate to something called the Official Election Defense Fund. The Select Committee discovered no such fund existed.
I don't believe there is actually a fund called the Election Defense Fund.
Is it fair to say that the Election Defense Fund was another, I think we've called it a marketing tactic?
Yes.
And tell us about these funds as marketing tactics.
Just a topic matter where money could potentially go to be, how money could potentially be used.
The claims that the election was stolen
Official.
were so successful.
When you say something is official, that is not a potential way you might use the money.
You know, fucking somebody, if somebody pretended to like sell some COVID cure and they took money from people, they would go to jail for it.
Yeah.
Like if you commit fraud, you go to jail. You said you were going to use this money for something. Look at the fucking people who like did it. They fucking made a lie on GoFundMe.
Yeah, I was going to say the same
You know what
thing.
I mean? Like
right.
it's a fucking GoFundMe lie.
Right.
Like the people that were defrauded are the regular people, but the people who are doing it were just making up a lie. They're just making something up. And they went after those people.
Right. Yeah, it's fine. It's just, this is just objectively fraud. Like you can't say like, well, we know it looks like what it says on there, official fund.
Yeah.
And it doesn't exist.
If he doesn't get fucking
it doesn't fucking
like,
exist.
If you don't get taken down for this, every other fucking Joe in the world gets taken down for this.
Right.
If you're fucking fraudulent.
You and I can't start the cognitive dissonance. Fuck it. We can't like make up some bullshit.
I can't make up a charity.
Right.
I can't do like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's fucking
Like, we would get sued.
You'd get sued in a second. And like this guy somehow can he's still free.
I know.
President Trump and his allies raised $250 million, nearly $100 million in the first week after the election. On November 9th, 2020, President Trump created a separate entity called the Save America PAC. Most of the money raised went to this newly created PAC, not to election-related litigation. The Select Committee discovered that the Save America PAC made millions of dollars of contributions to pro-Trump organizations, including $1 million to Trump Chief of Staff Mark Meadows' charitable foundation, $1 million to the America First Policy Institute, a conservative organization which employs several former Trump administration officials,
no shit.
$204,857 to the Trump Hotel Collection,
nice,
and over $5 million to Event Strategies, Inc., the company that ran President Trump's January 6th rally on the Ellipse.
All of us here today do not want to see our election victory stolen by emboldened radical left Democrats, which is what they're doing.
The evidence developed by the Select Committee highlights how the Trump campaign aggressively pushed false election claims to fundraise, telling supporters it would be used to fight voter fraud that did not exist. The emails continued through January 6th, even as President Trump spoke on the ellipse. 30 minutes after the last fundraising email was sent, the Capitol was breached.
At the conclusion of last week's hearing, we showed you a video of rioters explaining why they had come to Washington on January 6th. It was because Donald Trump told them to be here. Today we heard about some of the lies Donald Trump embraced and amplified when it became clear he didn't have the numbers of votes to win the election. We heard about how officials at different levels of government explored claims of fraud and found no evidence, yet the former president continued to repeat those false claims over and over again. Today, we'll end things where we did on Thursday, back on January 6th, hearing words of individuals who wanted to stop the transfer of power. We know they were there because of Donald Trump. Now we hear some of the things they believed. Without objection, I enter into the record a video presentation.
I know exactly what's going on right now. Fake election. They think they're gonna fucking cheat us out of our vote and put communist fucking Biden in office. It ain't fucking happening today, buddy.
God, I went to high school with every one of those guys.
God. Voted early, it went well, except for the can't really trust the software. Dominion software all over it.
We voted, and right in the top right-hand corner of the Dominion voting machine that we used, there was a Wi-Fi symbol with 5 bars. So that most definitely connected to the internet, without a doubt. So they stole that from us twice. We're not doing it anymore. We're not taking it
Twice?
anymore.
What are you talking about?
We're
Twice?
standing up, we're here, and whatever happens, we're not laying down again.
Open a single book.
It didn't work. It absolutely worked. It didn't work. No. Trust the system. 200,000 people that weren't even registered voted. 430,000 votes disappeared from President Trump's tally. And you can't stand there and tell me that it worked.
I don't want to say that what we're doing is right. But if the election's being stolen, what is it going to take?
That's it. That's what I got. So I cut a little bit of this, guys, because it was really long. We've got to get through this other one. Now, we might not watch the whole thing of the other one, but I'm going to start playing it now so we can start watching it. Here we go. So let me call it up. I think it's this one. Maybe?
This is almost no idea more un-American than the notion.
So before we start, I want to mention that I do cut part of this. And I will tell you when we get to it, but I want to play part of it so I can tell you why I cut it before I do. Okay, so we're gonna play it. It's gonna get maybe about 15 minutes in before I tell you why I cut it.
This is almost no idea more un-American than the notion that any one person could choose the American president.
You flubbed that line.
No idea more un-American. I agree with that, which is unusual because former Vice President Mike Pence and I don't agree on much.
Fucking
That's
crazy.
great.
These
are his
That's
words,
great.
spoken a few months ago about Donald Trump's attempt to pressure the former vice president, pressure him into going along with an unlawful and unconstitutional scheme to overturn the 2020 election and give Donald Trump a second term in office that he did not win. Today, the Select Committee is going to reveal the details of that pressure campaign. But what does the Vice President of the United States even have to do with a presidential election? The Constitution says that the Vice President of the United States oversees the process of counting the Electoral College votes, a process that took place on January 6, 2021. Donald Trump wanted Mike Pence to do something no other vice president has ever done. The former president wanted Pence to reject the votes and either declare Trump the winner or send the votes back to the states to be counted again. Mike Pence said no. He resisted the pressure. He knew it was illegal. He knew it was wrong. We're fortunate for Mr. Pence's courage on January 6th.
One guy.
Our democracy came
Terrifying.
One
dangerously
guy.
close to
Terrifying.
catastrophe. That courage
If he was
put him
so many
in
of the other
tremendous danger.
sycophants,
When Mike
he was
Pence
Jim
made
Jordan.
it clear that he wouldn't
Jeff
give
Sessions.
in to Donald
Yeah.
Trump's scheme, Donald Trump turned the mob on him. A mob that was chanting, "Hang Mike Pence."
The other thing, man,
mob
like,
that had
you know
built
that
a
if Trump gets
hangman's
reelected,
gallows
he'll just find somebody
outside
who's
Find the
even
people
more
who do it. Find the
sycophantic.
people who do it.
Thanks in part to Mike Pence, our democracy withstood Donald Trump's scheme and the violence of January 6th. But the danger hasn't receded. Led by my colleague, Mr. Aguilar, today we'll lay out the facts for the American people. But first, I'll recognize my colleague from Wyoming, Ms. Cheney, for any opening statement she'd care to offer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Let me take just a few minutes today to put the topic of our hearing in broader context. In our last hearing, we heard unequivocal testimony that President Trump was told his election fraud allegations were complete nonsense. We heard this from members of the Trump campaign. We heard this from President Trump's campaign lawyers. We heard this from President Trump's former Attorney General, Bill Barr. We heard this from President Trump's former acting Attorney General, Jeff Rosen. And we heard this from President Trump's former acting Deputy Attorney General, Richard Donahue. We heard from members of President Trump's White House staff as well. Today, we're focusing on President Trump's relentless effort to pressure Mike Pence to refuse to count electoral votes on January 6th. Here again is how the former vice president phrased it in a speech before the Federalist Society, a group of conservative lawyers.
This is chilling stuff.
This week, that President Trump said I had the right to overturn the election. But President Trump is wrong. I had no right to overturn the election. The presidency belongs to the American people and the American people alone. And frankly, there is no idea more un-American than the notion that any one person could choose the American president.
What the president wanted the vice president to do was not just wrong. It was illegal and unconstitutional. We will hear many details in today's hearing, but please consider these 2 points. First, President Trump was told repeatedly that Mike Pence lacked the constitutional and legal authority to do what President Trump was demanding he do. This is testimony from Mark Short, the Vice President's Chief of Staff, who served in the Trump administration in multiple positions over 4 years.
How many marks did he have working for?
All of them. They were
But just
all
to pick up on
marks.
that, Mr. Short, was it your impression that the vice president had directly conveyed his position on these issues to the president, not just to the world through a dear colleague letter, but directly to President Trump?
Many times.
And had been consistent in conveying his position to the president?
Very consistent.
Okay.
But President Trump plotted with a lawyer named John Eastman to pressure Pence to do so anyway. As the federal court has explained, quote, based on the evidence, the court finds that it is more likely than not that President Trump and Dr. Eastman dishonestly conspired to obstruct the joint session of Congress on January 6th, 2021. What exactly did President Trump know? When exactly did President Trump know that it would be illegal for Mike Pence to refuse to count electoral votes? Here is one sample of testimony given by one of the witnesses before us today, the Vice President's General Counsel.
Did John Eastman ever admit, as far as you know, in front of the president, that his proposal would violate the Electoral Count Act?
I believe he did on the 4th.
That was January 4th.
Damn.
2 days before the attack on Congress. A second point, please listen to testimony today about all of the ways that President Trump attempted to pressure Vice President Pence, including Donald Trump's tweet at 2:24 p.m. condemning Vice President Mike Pence when President Trump already knew a violent riot was underway at the Capitol. In future hearings, you will hear from witnesses who were present inside the White House, who were present inside the West Wing on that day. But today we focus on the earnest efforts of Mike Pence, who was determined to abide by his oath of office. As Vice President Pence prepared a statement on January 5th and 6th,
and only for an
that he
afternoon.
could not
Right.
illegally
For one
refuse
day.
to count electoral votes, he said this
It's
to his staff.
100% Scott Bakula from Quantum Leap that was in a nutshell. There's no way it was really him.
This meaning the statement.
The statement. And he really wanted to make sure that it was just so.
You will hear today that President Trump's White House counsel believed that the Vice President did exactly the right thing on January 6th, as did others in the White House, as did Fox
Well, he only
News
had the
host
entire
Sean
history of the United States as a template.
Vice President Pence
So-
understood that his oath of office was more important than his loyalty to Donald Trump. He did his duty. President Trump
He did his duty and made a
Massive
massive
dump.
dump.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Without objection, I recognize the gentleman from California, Mr. Aguilar, for an opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today, we intend to show the American people that January 6th was not
He's
an
very
isolated
pinchy
incident.
looking.
He is.
In the weeks culminating before, it was a legal scheme.
It's like Beetlejuice when he
deception.
fucks his face
Yeah.
up.
We've already learned that President Trump knew he
I
lost.
think he's
the
always
2020
smelling
election.
something unpleasant.
Shortly after, he began to look for a
Mike
way
Pence.
to circumvent our country's most fundamental civic tradition, the peaceful transfer of power. The president latched on to a dangerous theory and would not let go because he was convinced it would keep him in office. We witnessed firsthand what happened when the President of the United States weaponized this theory. The Capitol was overrun, police officers lost their lives, and the Vice President was taken to a secure location because his safety was in jeopardy. Let's take a look at the effect of Donald Trump's words and actions. I want to warn our audience that the video contains explicit content.
Mike
Just
Pence is going to
girls
have
gone
to come
wild
through
for 5
us.
minutes.
And if he doesn't, that will be a sad day for our country. And Mike Pence, I hope you're going to stand up for the good of our Constitution and for the good of our country. And if you're not, I'm going to be very disappointed in you. I will tell you right now.
Oh no.
I'm telling you what, I'm hearing the Pence. I'm hearing the Pence just caved. No. Is that true? I'm hearing reports that Pence caved. No I'm telling you, if Pence caved, we're gonna drag motherfuckers through the streets. You fucking politicians are gonna get fucking drugged through the streets.
I guess the hope is that there's such a show of force here that Pence will decide to do the right thing, according to Trump.
Bring out Pence! Bring out Pence! Bring out Pence! Bring out Pence!
It's electric. You guys are amazing.
How did we get to this point?
Jesus.
How
Jesus
did we
Christ.
get to the point where President Trump's most radical supporters led a violent attack on the Capitol and threatened to hang President Trump's own vice president? You'll hear from witnesses that Donald Trump pressured Mike Pence to adopt a legally and morally bankrupt idea that the vice president could choose who the next president can be. You'll hear about how the vice president, the White House counsel, and others told Donald Trump.
If that were the case,
Vice
why would we
President
ever
had no
bother
such
having
authority.
elections?
That's the thing.
Every incumbent
President
would just be
Trump
like,
would
yeah,
not
I
They
still win.
ask the same thing. Like,
You'll
why
hear
didn't
how
Gore
Vice
do
President
it?
Pence
Right.
withstood an
Like later
onslaught
on,
of
they're just like,
pressure
well, fucking, if the
from
vice president has that
Trump,
power,
both publicly
So
and privately.
stupid.
A pressure campaign that built to a fever pitch.
I
with
can't
a
believe we have
heated phone
fucking
call
like a full
on
hearing
January
to just know that that's you can't
You'll
do
also
that.
I know, it's obvious you can't do.
President knew there
Why
was
would
a
we
violent
bother
mob at
having
the Capitol
voting?
when he tweeted at 2:24 p.m. that the vice president did not have the, quote, courage to do what needed to be done.
Take a massive dump.
Let me be clear. Vice President Pence did the right thing that day. He stayed true to his oath to protect and defend the Constitution.
You ever watch Game of
Look
Thrones?
forward to hearing
Just
from our
part of the
witnesses
first
this
season.
afternoon. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
That guy in the back looks like one of the guys
Thank you,
but-
Mr.
that's
Aguilar.
bald but with hair.
We are honored to have two distinguished witnesses who advised Vice President regarding his role on January 6th. Judge J. Michael Ludick is one of the leading conservative legal thinkers in the country. He served in administrations of President Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush. He was appointed by the latter to serve on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit, where he served from 1991 to 2006. He provided critical advice for Vice President Pence regarding the role of the Vice President in the joint session of Congress shortly before that fateful moment. He's written that the Vice President does not have the power to select the next President of the United States.
Wow.
He's
No
also
kidding.
written that that contrary theory espoused by one of his own former law clerks was, quote, incorrect at every turn. We're also joined today by one of the people who was with Vice President Pence on January 6th. Greg Jacob
Mother. Oh.
was counsel to Vice
Mother.
President Pence. He conducted a thorough analysis of the role of the Vice President in the joint session of Congress under the Constitution.
He's still a weird
Electoral
robot.
Count Act and
Hey,
230 years
weird robot.
of historical practice. But he also has firsthand information about the attack on the Capitol because he lived through it. He was with the Vice President and his own life was in danger. In the United States, the people choose our representatives, including the highest official in the land, the President of the United States. The American people did this on November 3rd, 2020. But President Trump did not like the outcome. He did everything he could to change the result of the election. He tried litigation, 62 cases, in fact, and that failed. He tried to pressure state legislatures to reverse the results of the election in their states, but they refused. He tried to enlist the Department of Justice in his efforts to overturn election results, but officials leading the department refused to comply. So eventually, he latched on to a completely nonsensical and anti-democratic theory that one man, his own vice president, could determine the outcome of the election. He wanted the vice president to unilaterally select the president. This theory that the vice president could unilaterally select the president runs completely contrary to our Constitution,
No shit.
our laws,
Really?
and the entirety of our American
And the structure of a
experience.
representative
But that
democracy.
didn't
Why
stop.
fucking vote?
Didn't matter to President Trump. I would
We had
now
100%
like to
turnout. Mike
explore
Pence was there.
How President Trump came to latch on to this ridiculous legal theory that the vice president can select the president of the United States. Mr. Jacob, how did this theory first come to your attention?
Everybody does this.
The first time that I had a conversation with the Vice President about the 12th Amendment and the Electoral Count Act was in early December, around December 7th. The Vice President called me over to his West Wing office and told me that he had been seeing and reading things that suggested that he had a significant role to play on January 6th in announcing the outcome of the election. He told me that he had been first elected to Congress in 2000 and that one of his earliest memories as a congressman was sitting in on the 2001 certification, and he recalled that Al Gore had gavelled down a number of objections that had been raised to Florida. And he asked me mechanically, how does this work at the joint session? What are the rules? And I told the Vice President that
Feels like he's pushing for a way to do it.
fairly good idea of how things work, that actually there aren't rules that govern the joint session, but what there is a provision of the Constitution that's just one sentence long, and and then an Electoral Count Act that had been passed in 1887. And I told the vice president that I could put a memo together for him overnight that would explain the applicable rules.
So, Mr. Jacobs, when you looked at this theory, what did you conclude?
So we concluded that what you have is a sentence in the Constitution.
He looks like he's going to say right after that, and if you don't say the right thing, I'm going to beat that.
I know he does, right?
He looks angry the whole time because he's fuming.
Stern. Yeah.
He's mad,
Yeah.
and he should be.
Yep.
He should be as mad as possible, but he looks like he's taking this deadly serious,
Yeah.
like he should.
Absolutely. And this guy looks like fucking howdy doody.
I was thinking the same thing. He kind of looks like a caricature. Like
He
somebody
looks-
drew like a caricature.
He looks like the Mad magazine guy.
Magazine guy. Looks like Alfred E.
He
Neumann.
does.
Yeah.
Drafted. But the vice president's first instinct when he heard this theory was that there was no way that our framers, who abhorred concentrated power,
No shit.
who had broken away from
Jesus.
the tyranny of George
Who's fucking thinking this is a thing you can do?
Only people who want to abuse the system.
Somebody who wanted to try to do it. And I think Pence might have even.
Yeah, maybe, but I think he knew, like, I'll go to prison.
the election in a role to have
Or he'll get
decisive,
hung.
Impact
Yeah.
on the outcome.
Get
of the
killed.
election.
You know what I mean? Like,
And our review of text, history, and frankly, just common sense all confirm.
common sense is the
Vice
first thing you
President's
should have
first
used.
instinct
Right.
On that point. There is no justifiable basis to conclude that the vice president has that kind of authority.
No shit.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobs. We will hear more today about how, despite this conclusion by you and other top legal advisors, the former president used this discredited theory in his campaign to pressure the vice president to decide the outcome of the presidential election. I now recognize the gentlewoman from Wyoming, Ms. Cheney, for questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Judge Ludig, thank you as well for being here with us today. You issued a very important statement earlier today, which I urge all Americans to read. And I'd like to ask you, Judge, about one of the sentences in your statement and ask if you could explain to us the significance of it. You say, had the Vice President of the United States obeyed the President of the United States, America would immediately have been plunged into what would have been tantamount to a revolution within a paralyzing constitutional crisis. Could you elaborate on that for us?
Okay, I'm going to pause here for a second. I cut a lot of this guy's testimony. This guy speaks very haltingly. He speaks in a way where he talks I'm going to let the first one plays, so you get to hear what he has to say. One, he doesn't say a fucking thing. He repeats himself a bunch of times. He doesn't say anything. And he speaks very haltingly. Now, I saw a tweet from Andrew Torres that said that he's fucking sandbagging this and treating it like this because he doesn't want to be there. And he's treating it like
If
this.
that's true, that's such
I don't
bullshit.
know. Like, I'm not a law talking guy. Andrew's
Right.
a law talking guy. Maybe he knows I don't know. But he said that this guy, he does not think that this guy talks like this normally. And so that's what Andrew thinks. Here's what I think. It's impossible to listen to. So I'm going to let you listen to the first bit. And Tom, at any point you want me to just fast forward over what he says, I will fast forward.
Okay.
I only kept him in here in the beginning because the rest of it, I literally condensed down what he would say, 5 minutes worth of talking, into a slide because he is genuinely impossible to listen to.
Holy shit.
So I'm going to let him play. She asked him a very easy question. Can you elaborate on this comment?
Right.
So
Yes, Judge.
I put a pause in here.
That passage in my statement this morning referenced the most foundational concept in America, which is the rule of law. Thus, as I interpret your question, you were asking about that foundational truth of these United States, which we call America.
What is happening right now?
It gets worse. That woman, she wants to laugh.
Foundational truth is the rule of law. That foundational
Truth?
truth
Yeah, gotcha.
is the
Foundation?
United States of America, the profound truth.
What?
It's not merely the profound truth for the United States.
Of America.
It's also the simple truth. The simple
What is happening?
foundational truth of the American Republic.
Oh my fucking God, what is happening?
Thus, in my view, the hearings being conducted by this select committee are examining that profound truth, namely the rule of law.
Holy shit. This is the
United
most
States of
circular
America.
fucking thing I've ever heard.
Specific question, of course, before you.
You're your own human
for the
centipede.
nation, not before me.
Will the honorary Ouroboros please come to the... Holy shit.
That foundational rule of law
That profound truth.
was supremely violated on
Caliente.
January 6th, 2021.
I forgot the question. I forgot the question so
Question
hard.
Specifically that you asked,
Was there a question?
Madam Vice Chair.
Of the United States of America.
I
Profound
believe
truth.
that had Vice President Pence obeyed the orders from his president,
Oh my sweet kung fu
President of the United
Jesus.
States of America, during the joint session
Oh my God.
of the Congress of the United States
What?
on January 6th.
I would hit him. I would fucking hit him.
2021.
I would hit him right in the fucking jowls.
If he's sandbagging, absolutely.
Donald Trump.
Oh.
I don't know if he's like mentally capable or
next-
something. That might be a problem too.
Unless,
I don't know.
President
but
of the United
Right? Like,
unless
I
he's
don't
got
know.
a serious.
I don't know.
Right.
I can't tell you. I have no idea.
If
but,
this is not how he talks outside.
but this is what was
knock
pointed
him
out to
out.
me when I saw the tweet. So I don't know.
Right.
I don't know anything about the guy. He may be mentally incompetent. But but that would be stupid to put a mentally incompetent person on a fucking congressional hearing. That's stupid. It's a stupid thing to do. And that morning, he like supposedly wrote like a thing to explain all this. So it's not that he's. I don't think he's. I think Andrew might be right.
Yeah,
I think
it sounds because he's a sitting judge.
He's also. That what he just said, seriously, I mentioned this to you earlier. It sounds like a first-year philosophy student that got caught daydreaming and looking out the window and got asked like what the categorical imperative was.
Right. The category is certainly important. One might say imperative. And categorical. We must start
Okay,
Slower.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
That
Still going.
then President Trump had
Look at the lady behind him.
the
I think
Electoral College vote.
she's going to laugh. I think she wants to laugh. I think she blinks to
popular
suppress
vote
her laugh.
She
2020
either that
presidential
or she
election.
realized she had to pee right before he started talking and is like, fuck.
That declaration of Donald Trump as the next president would have plunged America into what I believe would have been tantamount to a revolution within a constitutional crisis.
Inside an Ouroboros.
Holy mother of God.
In America? Where else?
Which, in my view,
Holy shit, everything you're saying is your view. Holy fuck.
It has been the first constitutional crisis
It's still going, dude. You want me to fast forward?
since the founding of
I do. I can't anymore. I
Okay.
can't.
I'm
You
gonna
guys, I'm
fast forward.
sorry.
I'm gonna
If you
fast
guys
forward.
wanted to
Double
keep hearing
speed
that, I can't.
I'm just gonna fast. Can I double speed? I don't know. Is there a thing to double speed it on here? You know this.
Oh my God.
Oh, is it the Windows player?
It's the Windows
I don't
player
think
now.
so. No,
Holy shit.
Oh, I was right at the end of it anyway. He doesn't look happy.
No. Oh my God.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Judge, for your solemn attention to these issues and for your appearance
Holy
here today.
shit. For your careful, excruciating wording.
I just want everybody to know I have no idea. I'm not making any judgments. I don't know whether or not. All I'm saying is what I heard. I cannot make a judgment on that whatsoever, but I will say I cut him out because everything he says is like that. And it doesn't, like, you literally just watch it for 10 seconds. You're like, I know what you're going to say. Just say it. And so I cut it out. If you want to watch it, it's there. It's on the government site. Go watch it.
Yeah.
But I cut it out of this.
Kudos if you could. Honestly, I can't follow it.
Yeah.
My mind wanders
Yeah,
and
no,
I forget what.
Because
Like,
you forget what he's talking about.
Right.
Basically, he said yes.
Yeah, right.
You know, he's like,
he
yeah,
repeated
it
like
sucks.
that's
Yeah,
what I
he's an
said.
asshole. Yeah, he shouldn't have done it. Like,
Yeah,
whatever.
I think she said you wrote this thing. Would you like to elaborate? And then
And he didn't.
He prefaced
Yeah.
without elaboration and then repeated what he wrote.
Yeah.
We're going to describe and discuss in detail what happened. And as we do, I'm going to describe a few of the details now of some of the actions taken by a gentleman named Kenneth Cheeseborough.
Kenneth Cheeseburger.
After
delicious.
the
Kenneth
Electoral
Cheeseborough
College
in
met
paradise.
and cast their votes on December 14th. Actually, the day before they met, Kenneth Cheeseborough sent a memo
Delicious.
That's a
Rudy
great name.
Giuliani,
Double Cheeseborough.
presidency outside counsel. Mr. Cheeseborough wrote to Mayor
can't.
Giuliani.
I
The
can't.
Vice
Mayor
President is
McCheeseborough.
charged with, quote, making judgments about what to do if there are
Oh, my
conflicting
God.
votes, close quote.
And then his assistant
Mr.
was like,
Cheeseborough
robble,
wrote
robble.
that when the joint session of Congress got to Arizona in the alphabetical
God,
list of
whenever I
states,
hear his
the
name,
Vice
I grimace.
President should not count the Biden votes, quote, because there are two slates of votes. His justification, which we will learn more about in our next hearing, was that a group of Trump supporters in Arizona and other swing states decided to proclaim themselves the true electors for the state, creating two sets of electors. The official electors selected by
And
the
then the
state.
dark side
And then
electors.
random people who are like,
Yeah.
I'm it.
Yeah.
This document was ordered to be produced to the Select Committee by a federal district court judge. As you will see on the screen shortly, Judge David Carter wrote, quote, the draft memo pushed a strategy that knowingly violated the Electoral Count Act.
Fucking A, man.
The judge concluded that, quote, the memo is both intimately related to and clearly advanced the plan to obstruct the joint session of Congress on January 6, 2021. A few days later, Professor John Eastman took up this cause. Eastman was at the time a law professor at Chapman University Law School. He prepared a memo outlining
Did
the
they
nonsensical
subpoena
theory
Eastman? Did he
that the
just
Vice
like say
President
fuck
could
off?
decide the outcome of
he
the
calls,
election
he says
at the
the,
joint session of
Please,
Congress
the
on
fifth.
January 6th. You will see portions of this memo on the screen. In the first line, he wrote, quote, 7 states have transmitted dual slates of electors to the President of the Senate. But Dr. Eastman goes on to rely on those so-called dual slates of electors to say that Vice President Pence could simply declare President Trump the winner of the 2020 election. Mr. Jacob, were there in fact dual slates of electors from 7 states?
No, there were not.
And just a few days after that, Dr. Eastman wrote another memo. This one, quote, wargaming out several scenarios.
Yikes.
He knew the outcome he wanted, and he saw a way to go forward if he simply pretended that fake electors were real. You will see that memo up on the screen now.
I mean, that worked for Trump
Here,
for
Dr.
fucking
Eastman
4 years.
says the vice president can reject the Biden electors from the states that he calls, quote, disputed. Under several of the scenarios, the vice president could ultimately just declare Donald Trump the winner. regardless of the vote totals that had already been certified by the states.
That's why we need fucking
However, this was false.
popular vote.
We do.
And Dr. Eastman knew
Get rid of
it
this
was
nonsense. Get
In
rid of
other
it. It's
words,
garbage.
it was a lie.
Racist garbage.
In fact, on December 19th, 2020, just 4 days before Dr. Eastman sent this memo, Dr. Eastman himself admitted in an email that the fake electors had no legal weight, referring to the fake electors as, quote, dead on arrival in Congress, end quote, because they did not have a certification from their states. Judge Ludig, did the Trump electors in those 7 states who were not certified by any state authority have any legal significance?
We're fortunate to have a bipartisan staff.
I love the slide you put in.
It's seriously, it's the same thing every time.
Oh my God.
In Missouri, under President George W. Bush. He and I will share today's lines of questioning. Mr. Wood?
Thank you, Mr. Aguilar. Judge Ludig, I had the incredible honor of serving as one of your law clerks. Another person who did was John Eastman. And you have written that Dr. Eastman's theory that the vice president could determine who the next president of the United States is, in your words, incorrect at every turn. Could you please explain briefly your analysis? Thank you, Judge. Mr. Jacob, I have a question for you. I believe during your deposition before this.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's editorializing.
that's
Go watch
great.
it. Go watch it. It's seriously 5 fucking minutes you'll never get back. You'll never get it back.
Committee, you said something to.
This is, I just want to point out, they're having counsel ask questions.
Yeah, I know.
And I wonder too, like this sort of bolsters what Andrew was saying a little, that he's pissed off. And so they got to get him to ask questions because he won't answer questions from like Democrats.
And I think it's interesting because this guy said, like,
I used to fucking
clerk for you.
Yeah.
So he knows how this guy he knows this guy.
Yeah. And at a certain point, I didn't play it, but there's a part where this guy is like, he's like, well, I don't have the tweet in front of me. And it takes him like 7 minutes to just say that. And then the guy's like, well, I can read the tweet for you. He's like, no. And so there's like a whole thing that goes on between these two.
A little tension
that you guys could watch if you want. It's just bad. It's bad streaming. It's just bad streaming.
The effect of you'd read every word written about the 12th Amendment, the Electoral Count Act, and historical practice. I know in response to the chairman's earlier question, you gave your bottom line conclusion, but can you tell us a little bit about the process that you and your colleagues went through of researching this issue and what conclusion you came to after your thorough research?
Oh my God.
So you, as a lawyer who's analyzing a constitutional provision, you start with the constitutional text, you go to structure, you go to history. So we started with the text. We did not think that the text was quite as unambiguous as Judge Ludig indicated. In part, we had a constitutional crisis in 1876 because in that year, multiple slates of electors were certified by multiple slates. And when it came time to count those votes, the antecedent question of which ones had to be answered. That required the appointment of an independent commission. That commission had to resolve that question, and the purpose of the Electoral Count Act of 1887 had been to resolve those latent ambiguities. Now, I'm in complete agreement with Judge Ludig. It is unambiguous that the vice president does not have the authority to reject electors. There is no suggestion of any kind.
Yeah, of course.
There is no mention of rejecting.
I'm going to fast forward a little.
Yeah, this is like no shit. Of course there is.
There's nothing about objecting or rejecting. I'll talk to you a little bit about. So
he
then we
said a joke.
to structure.
I bet it was great.
Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, let's hear Mr. Jacobs' great joke.
There is one sentence that I would like to talk to you a little bit about. Together, our Constitution is a work of genius. Thank you. It was divinely inspired. There is one sentence that I would like to talk to you a little bit about.
I was talking about.
Then we went to structure. And again, history.
Super funny.
We hire history to conduct an investigation. Al Gore did not and should not have had that authority at that point.
Oh, this is we've been talking about Al Gore. This is important.
Might have liked to have known in 2000 that he looked at that question and said, first, the vice president clearly doesn't have authority to decide anything, and by the way, also does not have authority to conduct an investigation by sending things back out for a public look at things. So the history was absolutely decisive. And again, part of my discussion with Mr. Eastman was, if you were right, don't you think Al Gore might have liked to have known in 2000 that he had authority to just declare himself president of the United States? Did you think that the Democrat lawyers just didn't think of this very obvious quirk that he could use to do? And of course,
and John Eastman was like, no, I'm fucking brilliant. I'm the first one that came up with it.
I'm a genius. Authority at that point in time. But so text, structure, history, I think what we had was some ambiguous text that common sense and structure would tell you.
You didn't have anything ambiguous, man.
Possibly be.
The fucking, like, as much as these guys want to suck the dick of the Constitution, there's plenty of fucking garbage ambiguity.
Dumb.
Read here the Second Amendment.
So stupid.
Like, I don't know why we're not, like, better about saying, hey, this is what we actually wanted to say. Let's just.
Why can't we just be like, yeah, man,
adjust it.
nobody fucking thinks that. That's stupid.
Thank you. I reserve the remainder of my time.
Mr. Jacob, you weren't the only
Use it
one
when I want.
who knew that the legal theory was wrong, though. Here's what various advisors to the president thought about that theory.
Eventually.
You've been clear repeatedly.
Is Ian running their video?
I know,
about
right?
you and the vice president having a different view about his authority on January 6th.
I believe I had.
Did Mr. Meadows ever explicitly or tacitly agree with you or say, yeah, that makes sense or okay?
I believe that that Mark did agree.
What makes you say that?
I believe that's what he told me. But as I mentioned, I think Mark had told so many people so many different things that it was not something that that I would necessarily accept as, okay, well, that means that's resolved.
I see. Tell me more what he told you on this topic.
Well, I think it was that, the vice president doesn't have any broader role. And I think he was understanding of that.
So despite the fact that he may have said other things to the president or others, to you, he said he understands the vice president has no role.
Yes.
Okay. Did he say that to you several times?
A couple times.
Before
Couple
January
tree,
6th?
two tree.
Yeah, more than once.
The way it was communicated to me was that Pat Cipollone thought
Hey,
the
man,
idea
1994
was,
wants its fucking goatee back.
nutty. And
What the fuck?
at what point
Does he think that makes his weak chin look better?
It's a coin.
What is
Got a
that?
little coin of hair there.
Pat expressed his admiration for the vice president's actions on the day of the 6th and said that he concurred with the legal analysis that our team had put together to reach that point.
The legal
It made no
analysis of this
sense
thing
to
was
me.
basically.
And all the protections that were built into the Constitution.
This guy beat somebody to
For a
death with that
president to get elected
justice
and
bat,
steps that
and then
have
he
to be
fed him to
This
his
guy.
weird
That the
pants.
power to choose the next president would be sitting with the vice president.
Where are you?
Do you know Mr. Clark or
This
Mr.
guy.
What are you?
Potato vision.
We're not even in
What's going on?
focus.
Viewed about that, thought about that, Mr. Eastman?
This looks like the interior camera in a Resident Evil game.
Seriously, what is this? Is this like a bad gas station security cam from 10 years ago? The fucking footage on cell phones from a riot were better than this.
I could take a fucking better video with an analog watch.
Holy shit! I don't own anything that takes a video this bad.
January 6th?
Did you smear Vaseline on the fucking camera? I don't even know what's going on. I don't care. I can't even see it. And they were back to this guy.
Everybody's saying that you can't do it.
He described for me what he thought the ambiguity was in the statute.
Oh God, what
ambiguity?
And I was like, have you seen my weird toupees on the wall? They're metal. You can wear them. Everyone will think you're RoboCop with hair.
So the top bear is called Chucky, and the bottom bear is called Tony.
Maker as to your theory, who becomes the next president of the United States. And you said yes. I said, are you out of your effing mind? Right? And
I
that
said
was pretty
fucking
blunt.
Yeah.
I hit him with a fucking bat. You know what I mean? That's what I did. I took his fucking knees out. That's what I did.
78+ million people in this country.
Yeah, no, it's fine. We
that
just need to be
your
disenfranchised.
theory
Take
is
us down a
this is
notch.
invalidated because you think the election was stolen.
I can't believe fucking serious
they're not
people
gonna
were having this
tolerate
conversation.
I know,
Everybody
right?
was.
Well, it sounds like a lot of serious people were like, wait, no.
And he said,
Wait, no. What? No.
Words to the effect
Very
of,
obviously no.
Every single person that heard
violence in
it
the
looked
history
like
of our
they
country
somebody
are to
just put
protect the
smelling
democracy.
salts under the face.
In fact, there was a risk that the lawyers in the White House counsel's office would resign. For example, Fox News host Sean Hannity expressed concern that the entire White House counsel's office could quit. As you can see from these texts,
Oh.
Mr. Hannity wrote to White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows that, quote, "We can't lose the entire White House counsel's office. I do not see January 6th happening the way he is being told." A few days later, on January 5th, Mr. Hannity wrote to Mr. Meadows that, quote, "I'm very worried the next 48 hours. Pence pressure, White House counsel will leave." While Sean Hannity was apparently very concerned about the possibility that the White House counsel would resign in protest of the president's effort to force the vice president to violate the Constitution, some others close to the president were more dismissive of the White House counsel's position. Here's what Trump's son-in-law and senior advisor Jared Kushner said.
Oh, I fucking hate this
during his
guy.
deposition regarding the White House counsel.
I think we should be able to just waterboard Jared Kushner. Not to get any information.
No, I don't want to ask any questions.
Just because it's funny.
Instances where Pat Cipollone threatened to resign?
I kind of, like I said, my interest at that time was on trying to get as many pardons
Is he
done.
claymation?
And I
What
know
is
that
happening?
he was always, him and the team were always saying, "Oh, we're going to resign. We're not going to be here if this happens."
The
if that
SNL skit
happens."
Mr.
So
Bill years
I
ago.
kind of
He's
took
like
it
if
up to just be
Mr. Bill
whining,
had
to be
rolled
honest
into
with
some
you.
hair.
Yes.
The president's own lead.
He's a
outside
flesh-colored
counsel, Rudy
Gumby doll.
Giuliani,
He really is.
Also
Yeah.
seemed to
100%.
concede that the vice president did not have the authority
No
to decide
shit,
the outcome
man.
of the election. Or send it
Because
back to the
fucking of
states.
course, man.
Here's what White House Attorney Eric Hirschman said
I am,
about his call. to
I am
Mayor
suddenly
Giuliani
a
on the morning
constitutional
of the
scholar,
6th.
and I'll tell you he didn't have any
Dude,
standing.
I do like
Morning
that the way they
January
lay this case out was just like, here's all the people that were around that
Yeah.
said this is bullshit.
They're going to
Yeah.
extensive lengths to say this is literally bullshit.
Because and that's I actually do think that's important, right? Because if they just teach me it's bullshit, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But what matters is that everybody around Trump knew it was bullshit and chose to do it anyway.
Yeah. They woke
That's
up that
what
day.
matters.
They woke up that day and they chose it. And every single person who didn't get a chance to throw the other people under the bus are going
Yes.
yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think he called me out of the blue.
I fucking love this guy.
And I was like, getting
now he's even
dressed,
closer to the camera.
and we had an intellectual discussion.
I don't know about that.
Eastman's
Art?
I don't know if it's Eastman's theory per se, but the VP's role. And
Justice.
he was asking me my view and analysis and then the practical implications of
Slugging justice.
it. And when we finished,
What is that?
He said,
Louisville Justice.
I believe that you're probably right. I think he thought when we're done that it would be something he'd have to consider if he was sitting on the bench.
The face of that
But he'd probably
guy
come
was
down to that,
amazing.
Yeah.
Sitting at the table was like,
You couldn't interpret it or sustain the argument long term.
Of course, the fact that Mayor Giuliani seemed to admit that the theory was wrong did not stop him from going before the crowd just a few hours later on January 6th and saying the exact opposite.
No shit.
Here's Mayor Giuliani's speech at the Ellipse
Oh,
rally
God.
on January 6th.
This trash.
they lay out a good timeline too.
Who's that?
What is with that guy?
Is that the doctor?
What? Yeah, right. Look, he looks like baffled as to why he's there. He's like, hey.
He's like the guy who was delivering the chairs. You know, who just wandered up there. That's Professor
Oh, that's Eastman. Somebody was taking that guy seriously? Wait a minute. Go back to that guy. You would not take that guy seriously. That guy could be handing out $100 bills.
All right.
And I'd be like, that's just fucking
Yeah,
counterfeit.
There is no way you have. Those are to a
Look
church.
at that man.
Those are to a church, right?
That's the East. That's
The fact that Mayor
Eastman.
Giuliani seemed to admit that the theory was wrong did not stop him from going before the crowd just a few hours later on January 6th and saying the exact opposite. Here's Mayor Giuliani's speech at the Ellipse rally on January 6th.
It was just ...
Important 2 points.
Number one,
What?
every single thing that has been outlined as the plan for today is perfectly legal. I have Professor Eastman here with me to say a few words about that.
And number two, my pants.
Also, I'm glad it's January. I probably won't be sweating my motor oil. It's cold.
Appropriate, given the questionable constitutionality of the Election Counting Act of 1887, that the Vice President can cast it aside, and he can do what a president called Jefferson did when he was Vice President. He can decide on the validity of these crooked ballots.
Throw him in jail.
Get the fuck out of
Throw him in
here.
jail. Why? What is happening? Is Ian running their shit?
Ian, fix this video. Also, Ian, order me a flesh-colored trench coat, please. I don't have enough flesh-colored coats.
Said in his speech
And oh, Eastman's going to talk.
Oh my God.
This is Eastman.
Good. I want to see his weird too short scarf.
All we are demanding of Vice President Pence
Is this afternoon is that an Australian cowboy hat?
let the legislatures of the state look into this so we get to the bottom of it and the American people know whether we have control of the direction of our government or not.
What a psycho.
I love how, like, the whole time he was off to the side, he was like,
cold water.
and then when he was turn to talk, he's all fire and brimstone.
It's like all hunchback.
Yeah.
Did Dr. Eastman ever tell you what he thought the U.S. Supreme Court would do if it had to decide this issue?
Oh, they'll kick that thing right the fuck out.
We had an extended discussion, an hour and a half to 2 hours on January.
2 hours.
And when I pressed him on the point, I said, John, if the Vice President did what you were asking him to do, we would lose 9-0 in the Supreme Court, wouldn't we? And he initially started it, well, I think maybe you would lose only 7-2. And after some further discussion, acknowledged, well, yeah, you're right, we would lose 9-0.
But it would create a hell of a lot of turmoil.
In our investigation, the Select Committee has obtained evidence suggesting that Dr. Eastman never really believed his own theory. Let me explain. On the screen, you can see a draft letter to the President from October 2020.
This is new.
In this letter, an idea was proposed that the Vice President could determine which electors to count at the joint session of Congress. But the person writing in blue eviscerates that argument. The person who wrote the comments in blue wrote, quote, the 12th Amendment only says that the President of the Senate opens the ballots in the joint session and then, in the passive voice, that the votes shall then be counted. The comments in blue further state, nowhere does it suggest that the President of the Senate gets to make the determination on his own. Judge Ludig, does it surprise you that the author of those comments in blue was in fact John Eastman? I think that's a good point, and I think it kind of begs the question.
Dude, your edits are amazing.
The Vice President
These edits are great.
You didn't sit through that 5 minutes, dude.
Why hasn't it ever been used before? Why hasn't that ever happened? Why hasn't a Vice President simply rejected the outcome of an election and declared someone else the winner?
Shit, man.
And instead, as the chairman mentioned in his opening, for over 2 centuries, Vice Presidents have presided over the joint sessions of Congress. in a
Like it's
purely
fucking ceremonial.
role. This even includes, as Mr. Jacob mentioned, Vice President Al Gore. For those of us who are old enough to remember, the 2000 election came down to
Everybody in that room is old.
Literally
There were weeks of
everybody.
recounts and litigation after the election, and Al Gore conceded. Of course, Al Gore was vice president at the time, but he never suggested that he
And
could
he
simply
got more
declare
votes.
himself the winner
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
2000 election.
Like Biden.
He presided over the counting
Like Hillary.
of the electoral votes.
Yeah.
Let's hear what
2 times
Vice
in
President
16
Gore
years,
said
man.
when he described
Yeah, I know.
the
It's
situation
fucking
he
bullshit.
faced in 2000.
Importance of the United States of America in all of human history. In Lincoln's phrase, we still are the last best hope of humankind. And the choice between one's own disappointment in your personal career and upholding the the noble traditions of America's democracy, it's a pretty easy choice when it comes down to it.
For some people.
Mr.
Evidently,
Jacob,
everybody's having a fucking existential
Doctors can say
crisis
whether
at the
he
White
was
House.
elected
over there.
vice presidents such as Al Gore.
It's a pretty late
after the
midlife
2000
crisis there,
election,
Trumpy.
Or Kamala Harris after the 2024 election to have the power to decide the outcome of the election. So this was one of the many points that we discussed on January 5th.
Okay.
He had come into that meeting trying to persuade us that there was some validity to his theory. I viewed it as my objective to persuade him.
All I can look at to you right now is the guy in the orange tie.
That
tie
Is it Halloween?
It's baller. That's baller. That's a great tie. You'd wear that tie.
I would wear that tie on Halloween.
You'd wear that tie.
That's a seasonal tie. You don't wear that tie until after Labor Day.
Would not want Kamala Harris to be able
I'd
to
only wear that
exercise
with my
kind
white
of
pumps.
authority.
I'm going to fast forward this. I don't want to hear this.
Yeah, who gives a
It's
shit?
basically saying the same thing over and over.
Fucking of course not, right?
Fortunately, for the fate of our republic, Vice
Yeah, we
President
know.
Pence refused to go along with
Yeah.
President
One
Trump's
thing he
demands
did in his career
to
that's
determine
okay.
the outcome
And they
of
almost
the
hanged him.
presidential election. Mr. Jacob, what was the Vice President's reaction when you discussed with him the theory that the Vice President could decide the outcome of the election? Congressman, as I've testified,
Who,
the Vice
me?
President's first instinct was that there was no way,
Bullshit. Then why'd he ask you to look into it?
particularly the Vice President who is on the ticket and has a vested outcome in the election, could possibly have the authority
No shit.
to
It's self-evidently nonsensical.
decide it by rejecting electors,
And it always
or
was.
to decisively alter the outcome by suspending the joint session for the first time in history in order
Yeah,
to try
but this
to get
guy's a rhino.
Despite the fact that the Vice President had a strongly held and correct view that he could not decide the outcome of the election, President Trump launched a multi-week campaign of both public and private pressure to
See,
get
now this is
Vice
important.
President
Yeah.
Mike Pence to violate the Constitution. Here are some examples of the intense pressure the Vice President faced from all sides and what his Chief of Staff thought of it.
I hope Mike Pence comes through for us, I have to tell you. I hope that our great Vice President comes through for us. He's a great guy.
Yeah, until
Of course,
2
if he
days from
doesn't come
now.
through, I won't like him quite as much.
Was it your impression that the vice president had directly conveyed his position on these issues to the president?
Cecil,
not just
you're
to
a
the
great guy, but if
world
you don't help
through
me
a Dear
move,
Colleague letter, but
fuck you
directly
forever.
to President
That's
Trump?
also
Many
who this
times.
man is.
Right, right.
And had been consistent in conveying his position to the president.
Very consistent.
I am aware of the fact that the president was upset with the way Pence acted.
Are we to assume that this is going to be a climactic battle?
Well, I think a lot of that depends on the courage and the spine of the individuals involved.
That would be a nice way to say a guy named Vice President Mike
This
Pence.
guy looks like a podcaster.
Yeah, he does. He needs a shower. That dude needs. He always looks. You know what he looks like? He looks like he should be piloting like a junker space flight. Like he's like in a bad like Reaver or some fucking space cowboy
People are
show.
going to look back at this moment
This guy doesn't
tomorrow
look any
and
better with a
remember
beard.
what every single one of their elected officials were. Did they vote for the rule of law and getting these
Everything
elections
about that
right,
guy's
or
wrongly
did they give it away
proportioned?
to the Democrats and the people who
Nice tie, though.
cheated
I like
and
that
stole
tie.
their way
It's a
through
good
this
tie.
election?
Definitely when I got back into town,
Definitely.
as talk say like the 5th and the 6th, the president was, all the attention was on what Mike would do or what Mike wouldn't do.
The vice president really was not wavering in his commitment. to
So
what
much
he-
pressure. He's
what
like
his
a girl on
responsibility
prom
was.
night.
And so, yeah, was it painful? Sure.
The president's pressure campaign started in December. For example, although the vice president made his views clearly and unmistakably known to the president and others in the White House, on December 23rd, President Trump
okay.
retweeted a memo from an individual named Ivan Reichlin entitled Operation Pence Card that called on the vice president to refuse the Electoral College votes from certain states that had certified Joe Biden as the winner.
Didn't those people
President Trump
like Russia,
started
though?
his pressure campaign in December, but he dialed up the pressure as January 6th approached.
Who the fuck is Ivan Ranklin?
Some rando.
Fucking our president
Testimony
fucking
we have received
retweets
in our investigation
randos.
indicates that by
We
the
did.
time January 4th arrived,
President Trump had already engaged in a, quote, multi-week campaign
God, it feels like a
pressure the
decade
vice
ago.
president to
Oh,
decide
I know,
the
man.
outcome of the
This was
election.
like an hour ago.
I know, man.
This had included private conversations between the two leaders, Trump's tweets, and at least one meeting with members of Congress. We understand that the vice president started his day on January 4th with a rally in Georgia for the Republican candidates
And a
in the
half
U.S. Senate
pound of
runoff.
bacon.
Yeah, they lost.
And the vice president returned to Washington.
Fucking
He
losers.
was summoned to meet with the president regarding the upcoming joint session of Congress.
It's a fucking loser rally is what it was.
Yeah.
Attended that meeting?
The attendees were the Vice President, the President, Mark Short, the Chief of Staff to the Vice President.
Ian, get us
myself,
these
John
wind socks they have on
There
there.
was about a
These
5-minute
little.
period where Mark Meadows came in on a different.
Order these.
Yeah, these
for
little
us.
microphone
Let's show a photo of that meeting.
shabazas they got
Get us
there.
these.
Mr.
Get
Jacob,
us the little
During that
condoms
meeting
they have
between
on
the
them.
president and the vice president, what theories did Dr. Eastman
we
present
doing?
regarding
Is
the
this-
role of the vice
Who's
president?
doing
This is a
this?
weird
Camper?
picture.
Electoral votes?
What is happening?
During the meeting on January 4th, Mr. Eastman was opining that there were two legally viable arguments.
That lady
as
looks like the
to
Sixth Sense lady, kind of.
authority
Yeah, she
that
does.
The president could
Yeah.
exercise 2 days later on January 6th.
This guy
One
almost
of
saw
them
dead people.
Was that he could reject electoral votes outright. The other was that
I'll accept
he
an electoral
could
vote
use
when I pull it out of the hat and it's not a
his
practice.
Pull it out of this
to
giant chest.
suspend the proceedings and declare essentially a 10-day
We're actually going to pick the
recess.
president by who guesses closest to the number of
which
jelly beans in
We're
the
gonna do
bag.
a
or the-
mumbly peg competition.
Deemed to be disputed. There was a list of 5 to 7 states that the exact number changed from conversation to conversation.
Yeah, because they didn't fucking.
'Cause it was
know.
all
The vice
nonsense.
It was all
president
bullshit.
could,
It would have been funny
issue
if they
a
were like,
demand of the state
California,
legislatures in those
Illinois.
states
Well, let's say
examine
go for the big one. Just
the
go for
election.
one big
One big one.
Why go to
Declare
for 7 small
Right.
ones?
If you're going to make
each of
shit
those
up.
states. So he said that both of those were legally viable options.
They weren't,
He said that he did not recommend, upon questioning, he did not recommend what he called the more aggressive option, which was reject outright, because he thought that that would be less politically palatable. The imprimatur of state legislature authority would be necessary to ultimately have.
Aren't these guys all fucking
public
states' rights guys?
acceptance
Right?
of an
If you're a
outcome
fucking
in
states'
favor of
rights guy,
President Trump,
you're a
he
states' rights guy
advocated that
in
the preferred
fucking
course of
nonsense,
action-
like word only, right? Because
Yeah.
when it comes down to it, these guys like, states' rights until it's something I want.
Until I want to
and
change
then
my
I want
mind, and then I'm like,
federal
I'm not
government.
states' rights. Now
Yeah.
I'm like, federal government's going to tell you what to do.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Fucking Arizona's like, here's who we pick, and it's like, states' rights are bullshit.
I'm going to fast forward this guy. a
Yeah,
little.
this guy sucks. This
It's just the same
fucking,
thing
it's the
over
same
and
shit.
over.
Yeah.
Let's watch Trump though, because I think it's important to watch Trump talk.
Here's what the president said during that rally in Georgia.
Pence comes through for us, I have to tell you. I hope that our great vice president comes through for us. He's a great guy.
Didn't we sound
Of course, if he doesn't come through,
Expressly stating that the vice president had the being
I might have hit
and
backwards. I
did
don't know.
expressly he had recommended.
but you wrote requesting VP reject. Does that accurately reflect what Dr. Eastman asked of you in your meeting on January 5th?
Yes.
And what was your reaction when Dr. Eastman said on January 5th that he was there to ask the Vice President of the United States to reject electors at the joint session of Congress?
I was surprised because I had viewed it as sort of one of the key concessions that we had secured the night before from Mr. Eastman that that he was not recommending that we do that.
So what did you say to him?
Well, as I indicated, to some extent it simplified my task because there are more procedural complexities to the send it back to the states point of view, and I actually had spent most of my evening the night before writing a memorandum to the Vice President explaining all of the specific
did you get the
provisions of
memo?
Electoral Count Act that plan would violate. So
Well, I'm glad he actually fucking said
instead,
it's going to violate
since he
something,
was,
right?
Pushing
It's amazing how much this came down to
robust
like
unilateral
some
power
guy staying up all
theory.
night writing
I've
memos.
already walked the committee through the
Like how
discussions that we
fucking
had.
delicate is the
I
system?
know.
That some
started
fucking
out
guy
with our
with
points
fucking
of
big
commonality.
ears stayed up all night writing memos.
And then he's the one who's saying, no, you can't unilaterally decide who the
Conservatives,
president
small
is.
Right.
government People, we believe in originalism.
Some
Yeah,
guy in a
small
fucking
government. You
We're
just
gonna
said it.
interpret this. And so we walked through the text, we walked through the history, and the committee has shown footage of Mr. Eastman on the stage on the 6th, claiming that Jefferson supported his position and a historical example of Jefferson. In fact, he conceded in that meeting Jefferson did not at all support his position.
Yeah.
That in the
He's just
election
rounding up the crowd. He doesn't
of
care.
1800,
He lied.
there had been
It's
some
fucking
small
nonsense.
technical defects.
This guy wanted
with the
his fucking
certificate
moment in the
Georgia.
sun. He's a fucking small-time,
undisputed.
nobody
Jefferson
professor
won
Yeah.
Georgia.
with no
Jefferson
fucking
did
political
not
And he knew he
capital at
could.
all.
that he
Right.
had any authority to
And he got to
reject
step on the
electors.
big
He did not
stage.
assert
He needed
that
a place
had
to wear
any
that
authority
outfit.
to
Oh
resolve
my,
any
yeah.
issue.
Look, you don't wear that fucking
during the
flesh-colored
course of that.
trench coat and that fucking
So
Australian
he
cowboy hat
acknowledged
just
by the
Just
end
any-
willy-nilly.
Yeah.
that
I'm going to fast forward again.
Yeah.
and resolve it. Situation where you
We
put
know.
together
We're moving forward.
Cited in the streets. And you described several concessions that Dr. Eastman made throughout that discussion or even debate that you had with him. At some point during that meeting on January 5th, did Dr. Eastman seem to admit that both of the theories that he had presented to the United States the day before? So the theory that the vice president could reject electors outright and declare Donald Trump the winner, and his less aggressive theory that the vice president could simply send it back to the states. At some point in that conversation on the 5th, did Dr. Eastman seem to admit that both of these theories suffered from similar legal flaws?
So I had at least one, possibly two other conversations with Dr. Eastman later that day. In the earlier meeting, we really were focused, because his request that he made had been reject the electors outright, on why that theory was wrong and why we certainly would not be doing that. Later that day, he pivoted back to, well, we hear you loud and clear, you're not going to reject. But remember last night, I said that there was this more prudent course where you could just send it back to the states. Would you be willing to do that? And during the course of our discussion about his renewed request that we consider that option, he acknowledged to me, he put it, both Mr. Eastman and myself are graduates of the University of Chicago Law School. And he
Drop
said,
that
look,
somewhere.
as graduates of that august institution, you and I will mutually understand that the underlying legal theory of plenary vice presidential authority is what you have to get there. Because this new theory, as I was pointing out to him, or the procedural theory, still violates several provisions of the Electoral Count Act, as he acknowledged. And the only way that you could ever be able to ignore several provisions of statutory law is if it was pretty clear that they were unconstitutional. And the only way they could be unconstitutional is if the vice president had the plenary authorities that were formed the basis for the reject the votes as well. So he
So, rule of law.
acknowledged in those conversations that the underlying legal theory was the same. He just thought that the send it back to the states.
Okay, we're at, what does that say up there? 111? Is that what that says? I want to hit this fast forward button and see, because this works on YouTube, but I don't know if it's going to work
In
here.
fact,
So let's see.
when Dr. Eastman made this concession during that meeting, according to your earlier deposition, Dr. Eastman said, just between us, University of Chicago chickens. Is that right?
I don't think that the University of Chicago is going to start a Chicago Chickens fundraising club. But yes, that is the terminology that he used. He said, you know, just between us Chicago chickens, we will understand as lawyers who have studied the Constitution.
There's really nothing like a Chicago chicken.
Chicago chicken is pretty good.
I reserve the remainder of my time.
Thank you, Mr.
You
Wood.
do that.
The president and the vice president meet again on that same topic the next day, January 5th, correct?
So after my extended meeting with Mr. Eastman,
All right,
This had to be fucking
I'm
exhausting.
going to fast forward here.
during that time, the
It
vice
didn't work.
president had been back at his residence.
Skip through a
acknowledging that
bit.
there was
Authority. The president responds, but wouldn't it almost be cool to have that power?
What?
The Vice President is reported to have said, no, look, I've read this, and I don't see a way to do it. We've exhausted every option. I've done everything I could, and then
But
some
wouldn't
to
it be
find a way
cool if
around
you
this.
could?
It's simply not
What if we
possible.
shoot a bomb
My
in a
interpretation
hurricane?
is no.
Come on.
He's that
Which
guy,
The
though.
president
Uh-huh.
says, no, no, no. You don't understand, Mike. You can do this. I don't want to be your friend anymore if you don't do this. We asked Mark Short about this during his deposition.
Shut the fuck up.
This is.
Oh, we got to hear this.
Understanding that I would have.
I don't want to be your friend.
Fuck up.
In other conversations with the vice president, he
So
articulated to me that no, he wouldn't want that power bestowed upon any one person.
Talk about the friend stuff.
Please really say
Mr. Jacob, did you, Mr. Short, and the vice president have a
I
call
need
later
to know
day
that.
Did
again
Donald
with
Trump
the
really
president
dump
and
Mike
Dr.
Pence?
Eastman?
So, yes, we did.
And what did Dr. Eastman request on that call?
On that phone call, which I believe was around 5 o'clock that afternoon, Mr. Eastman stated that he had heard us loud and clear that morning. We were not going to be rejecting electors.
Jesus.
But would we be open to considering
All right, but would you kill a few
another
of them?
course that we had discussed
Come
back
on.
and forth, which would be to
I'll provide you with the
joint
Barrett
session
and the sniper.
state legislatures.
Can we at least split a hooker? Come on, what do we do?
Of the electoral
Just
Something.
between us Chicago chickens.
That same day, January 5th, the New York Times ran a story about the disagreement between the president and the vice president about whether the vice president could determine the outcome of the election.
And about whether or not they were friends.
Even though
still.
the New York Times story was
For
indisputably
real.
correct, Donald Trump denied it. Trump issued a statement claiming that
I
the
don't wanna be
vice
your friend
president
anymore.
had agreed that he could determine the outcome of the election, despite the fact that the vice president had consistently rejected that position. Let's look at what the president said in his statement. Quote, "The New York Times report regarding comments Vice President Pence supposedly made to me today is fake news. He never said that. The Vice President and I are in total agreement that the Vice President has the power to act."
I love that he unilaterally just
Mr.
sent that
Jacob,
out.
What
how
a-
did the Vice President's team react
He's just
to the
trying to
statement
read.
from the president
He's
that the
trying to do what he
Vice
did the whole time.
President would
Create
take an active
reality
role
with
in
storytelling.
determining the
Yeah.
winner of
Just
the
say
presidential
it.
Just
election?
keep saying it.
He doesn't get the answer he wants. He's just going to say he got the
so-
answer he wants.
We were shocked and disappointed because whoever had written and put that statement out, it was categorically untrue.
Vice President's Chief of Staff Mark Short had an angry phone call with Trump campaign senior advisor Jason Miller about this statement. Here's what Mr. Short and Mr. Miller told the committee about that call.
Okay. Tell me about the conversation you had with Jason.
It was brief. I was irritated and expressed displeasure that statement could have gone out that misrepresented the vice president's
Why didn't
viewpoint
he leak
without
another
consultation.
statement then?
I know,
The statement
because they're
says the
all a
Vice
bunch of
President and I
fucking
are in
inside
total
baseball
agreement
pussies,
that the Vice President
all
has the
secretly
power to act.
hoping
Is
that they could
incorrect?
not do it, but somehow it would work anyway.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I think the record shows that that's incorrect.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been through many documents that clarify that this is not where the vice president was.
Right. So essentially, the president's sending out a baldly false statement about being in alignment, purported alignment with the vice president, despite all of the predicate that you indicated had gone before about their respective positions. Is that effectively what happened?
I interpret the statement as false. I'll let you figure out who sent it out.
When Mark Short contacted you, he was upset. Is that what you said?
He clearly was not pleased.
Tell us what he said.
What's the process for putting out a statement for a meeting where only two people were in the room?
Did he ask you to retract the statement?
No, I think it went right to what's the process for putting out a statement for a meeting when only two people were in the room.
And he clearly disagreed with the substance, though, right? Because he said the vice president doesn't agree with this.
Trying to think what exactly he said. I mean, the tone was very clearly that he used some language to strongly infer that the vice president disagreed with that take, but I don't remember what that language was.
Did he dictate this statement?
He dictated most of it. I mean,
And then
typically
he got
on these,
bored.
Yeah.
typically on these, I might have a couple of wording suggestions.
Clean up the
or,
grammar a little, like, make it sensible.
Have a sentence or a rough framework or something of that. But I know with specificity on this one that it was me and him on the phone talking through it. And ultimately the way this came out was the way that he wanted to.
The dispute between the president and the vice president had grown to the point where the vice president's chief of staff, Mark Short, was concerned that the president could, in Mr. Short's words, quote, lash out at the vice president on January 6th. In fact, Mr. Short was so concerned about it that he talked with the head of the vice president's Secret Service detail on January 5th. Here is Mr. Short.
Concern was for the vice president's security, and so I wanted to make sure the head of the vice president's Secret Service was aware that that likely, as these disagreements became more public, that the president would lash out in some way.
After the recess, we will hear that Mark Short's concerns were justified. The vice president was in danger.
So this is the recess. I cut it out.
Okay.
I'd now like to turn to the events of January 6, 2021.
Nice edit. Didn't even
It
notice
turned
it.
out to be a fateful day in our nation's history.
Really, I don't recall anything interesting.
Despite the fact that the vice president consistently told the president that he did not have and would not want the power to decide the outcome of the presidential election, Donald Trump continued to pressure the vice president, both publicly and privately. As you will hear,
Dude, if I was
reached a
Mike
boiling
Pence, I'd be
point
like, I'm
on
just not getting out
January
of bed
6th,
today.
and the
I'm just not. Like, I got 2 weeks to wait this out. I'm
In the
just,
middle of the night,
I'm calling in sick.
January
You guys
5th,
fucking
into
do
the
your
morning
thing.
of the 6th, around 1 a.m.,
If he'd have resigned, though,
President
someone else would have
Trump
done it.
tweeted at the vice president, meaning that the comments in response to the president's tweet would also show up on the vice president's Twitter feed.
Trying to say he harassed him.
The tweet stated that the vice president could, quote, come through for us and send it back to the states. Then around 8 a.m. on January 6th,
Right on it. This
Trump
claim about
again
election
tweeted,
fraud is disputed. Right on the Twitter thing.
this time to say that the vice president could send it back to the states and, quote, we win. And that this is the time for extreme courage.
Extreme courage.
Raw. It's actually courage while you drink Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just jump off a
Just
building
fucking
or something.
skateboard down a water shark.
What is happening? Doing
And now we'll just all pause and collect our thoughts for 10 minutes. Let's listen to that judge again. The being of the being.
Short told
That's
us
all,
during
folks.
his deposition that the vice president
They should call it Martin
started
Short.
a meeting on January 6th in prayer. Here is what Mr. Short said.
You arrived at
Give
the
us
vice
a
president's
great
residence.
prayer.
As would often be the case, I recall that knowing it would be an important day, we gathered in prayer. And
That didn't help.
often that would be something the staff member
That
would
really knocked it out of the
lead. So
park
it
with
would have
that
just
one.
been at that time, I believe.
Pray harder.
Vice President, myself,
Fucking
Greg,
pray
and
the
Chris.
insurrection away.
And we would have just asked for guidance and wisdom, knowing that the day was going to be a challenging
Why
one.
would today be the day you got wisdom, though?
Yeah.
You know, you've been asking
Mr.
for it
Jacob,
for
did
a
you go to
long
the Vice
time.
President's residences on the morning of January 6th?
Yes.
Who else was with you?
Mark Short, Devin O'Malley, our communications director, and Chris Hodgson, our legislative affairs director.
And did the vice president have a call with the president that morning?
He did.
Were you with the vice president during the call?
So we had been putting the the vice president had finalized his statement overnight. We were in the process of proofing it so that we could get that out. And we were told that a call had come in from the president. The vice president stepped out of the room to take that call, and no staff went with him.
The president had several family members with him in the Oval that morning for that call. I'd like to show you what they and others told the Select Committee about that call.
Oh, good.
along
We
with
get to see these
never-before-seen
weird
photographs
fucking people,
of
these
the president
weird
on that
subhuman
call
weirdos.
from the National Archives.
When I got in, somebody called me and said that
It was
the
the bear.
family and others were in the Oval. And do I want to come up? So I went upstairs.
And who do you recall being in the Oval Office?
Don Jr., Eric, Laura, Kimberly, I believe Meadows was there. At some point, Ivanka came in.
It wasn't a specific, formal discussion. It was very sort of loose and casual.
So then you
a bunch
said
of
at some
cockroaches
point
in a real
there's
doll.
a telephone conversation between the president and the vice president.
exactly what she looks like.
Not wrong.
When I entered the office the second time, he was.
What,
on the
am I supposed to know what
telephone
that
with who I
says?
later found out to be was the vice president.
Could you hear the vice president or only hear the president's end?
I only heard the president's end. But at some point, it started off as a calmer tone and everything, and then became heated.
The conversation was pretty heated.
I think till it became somewhat, louder tone. I don't think anyone was paying attention to it initially.
Did you hear any part of the phone call, even if just the end that the president was speaking from?
I did, yes.
All right, and what'd you hear?
So as I was dropping off the note, I remember hearing the word wimp.
God, they're all a
Either
bunch
he
of
called him a
weirdo
wimp.
looking people.
I don't remember if he said, "You are a wimp, you'll be a wimp." Wimp is the word I remember.
It's also been reported that the president
He's
said
fucking berating.
He's calling him names like he's in sixth grade.
Pathetic.
Worse, I don't remember exactly either, but something like that, yeah. You're not tough enough to make the call.
It was a different tone than I'd heard him take with the vice president before.
Did Ms. Trump share with you any more details about what had happened, or any details about what had happened in the Oval Office that morning?
That her dad had just had an upsetting conversation with the vice president.
Do you recall anything about her demeanor, either during the meeting or when you encountered her in Dan Scavino's office?
I don't remember specifically. I mean, I think she was uncomfortable over the fact that there was obviously that type of interaction between the two of them.
Something to the effect, "This is
Come on!
wrong. I made the wrong decision."
Get more
4 or 5
Dayglow
years
orange
ago."
toner.
And the word that she relayed to that the president called the vice president, I apologize for being impolite, but do you remember what she said her father called him?
The P word.
What's that?
Politician?
Panda.
Jacob, how would you describe the demeanor of the vice president following that call with the president?
Then he
When came
walked
back
over to
into
Mike
the
Pence
room,
and grabbed him.
Say that he was steely,
You could do that when you're a celebrity.
grim.
Of course, the most dangerous part of what Donald Trump did on January 6th was what he did himself. As will be discussed in detail in a future hearing, our investigation found that early drafts of the January 6th ellipse speech prepared for the president included no mention of the vice president. But the president revised it to include criticism of the vice president and then
Shocking.
further ad-libbed. Here is what the president said on January 6th after his call with Vice President Pence.
I hope Mike is going to do the right thing. I hope so. I hope so.
We heard
Because
this
if
like
Mike
5
Pence
times.
does the right thing, we win the election. All Vice President Pence has to do is send it back to the states to recertify. And we become president, and you are the happiest people. And I just spoke to Mike. I said, Mike, that doesn't take courage. What takes courage is to do nothing. That takes courage. And then
What?
we're stuck with a president who lost the election by a lot, and we have to live with that for 4 more years.
Wait,
We're just
what?
not going to let that happen.
He's
and
ad-libbing,
Mike
'cause he's
Pence is going to
stupid.
have to come
This is
through
a
for us.
stupid person.
And if he doesn't, that will be a sad day for our country. And they want to recertify their votes. They want to recertify. But the only way that can happen is if Mike Pence agrees to send it back. So I hope Mike has the courage to do what he has to do. And I hope he doesn't
courage to
listen
do
to the
nothing, which is
rhinos
what
and
you-
the stupid people that he's listening to.
Of course, we all know what happened next. The president's words had an effect. President Trump's supporters became angry. When the vice president issued his public letter, the crowd at the Capitol erupted in anger. The rioters, who had erected makeshift gallows, began chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." Testimony in our investigation has made clear what the target of the rioters' ire was: Vice President Mike
And Mother was like, finally, he'll be hung.
The rioters breached the Capitol at 2:13 p.m.
That one guy with that tiny little mace is like, I give up. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I pieced out.
It's amazing how everybody's got their
There's
phone
the
out.
shaman.
There was the shaman.
Nobody squoze him.
Now let's take a look at what was going on at the White House at this time. We received testimony that the president's chief of staff, Mark Meadows, was notified of the violence at the Capitol by 2 p.m. and likely earlier. The testimony further establishes that Mr. Meadows quickly informed the president and that he did so before the president issued his 2:24 p.m. tweet criticizing Vice President
Yeah,
Pence.
trying to fire him
not
up.
having,
Like
quote,
he's pissed.
courage
He's fucking
to do
pissed.
what needed to be done. Here is what the president wrote in his 2:24.
He was
p.m.
trying to get
tweet
that man hurt.
while the
He
violence
was.
at the Capitol
I hope
was
this
going
puts
on.
him away.
And here is what the rioters thought.
Nothing but a traitor, and he deserves to burn with the rest of them.
So it's all escalated after Pence. What happened to Pence? Pence didn't do what we wanted.
Pence voted against Trump.
Okay, and that's when all this started?
Yep, that's when we marched on the Capitol. We've been shot at with rubber bullets, tear gas.
We just heard that Mike Pence is not going to reject any fraudulent electoral votes.
Well, no, he rejected all the fraudulent.
Yes, he did. Every one of them. Yeah.
First, Mike Pence has betrayed the United States of America. Mike Pence has betrayed this president, and he has betrayed.
What is Andre the Giant next to you? What is happening? Glad this is recorded so
real
we'll get to
simple.
forget.
Pence betrayed us, which apparently everybody knew he was going to, and the president mentioned it like 5 times when he talked. You can go back and watch the president's video.
Is she crying?
I don't know. I guess so.
There's 4 million people coming in, so there's a lot of control. We love you guys. We love the cops.
It's only a matter of time. Justice is coming.
Enjoy your vegan food.
Yeah, enjoy your
The
fucking
president's
prison,
chief of staff,
some
Mark
idiot.
Meadows, has refused to testify before this committee. Mr. Meadows' aide, Ben Williamson, and White House Deputy Press Secretary Sarah Matthews testified that Mr. Meadows went to the dining room.
Why are those
near the
people
Oval
not in
Office
jail
to
for
tell the
contempt of
president
Congress?
About the violence
No
at the
idea.
Capitol before the president's 2:24 p.m. tweet. In future hearings, you'll hear more about exactly what was happening in the White House at that time. But here is what some White House staff told the Select Committee.
Do you know where he went?
Yes, I followed him down the hallway, and I followed him into the outer Oval corridor, which is the hallway between the Oval Office hallway and the outer Oval section of the Oval Office. I followed him into that little corridor hallway. I saw him walk into outer Oval. I maybe took a step into outer Oval and then left. And I don't know where he went outside of that, but it looked like he was headed in the direction of the Oval Office.
You know, we had all talked about at that point about how it was
bad and the, situation was getting out of hand. And I know Ben Williamson and I were conferring, and we thought that the president needed to tweet something immediately. And I think when Kaylee gave us that order of don't say anything to the media, I told her that I thought the president needed to tweet something. And then I remember getting a notification on my phone, and I was sitting in a room with Roma and Ben, and we all got a notification. So we knew it was a tweet from the president, and we looked down, and it was a tweet about Mike Pence.
I believe I had sent him a text saying that we may want to put out some sort of statement because the situation was getting a little hairy over at the Capitol.
A little hairy.
And then it was common for, after I would text him, I would just go down and see him in person.
You went down to speak with Mark Meadows after this. What was that conversation?
Very brief. I went down and told him the same thing I have in the text that I can recall. And I don't remember anything that was said between us other than I told him that. And to my recollection, he immediately got up and left his office.
Our investigation found that immediately after the president's 2:24 p.m. tweet, the crowds both outside the Capitol and inside the Capitol surged. The crowds inside the Capitol were able to overwhelm the law enforcement presence, and the vice president was quickly evacuated from his ceremonial Senate office to a secure location within the Capitol complex.
Just a trap door opens underneath him.
By 2:24 p.m., the Secret Service had moved Vice President Pence from the Senate chamber to his office across the hall.
The noise from the rioters became audible, at which point we recognized that maybe they had gotten into the building.
Then, President Trump tweeted, "Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution."
God, terrible.
Giving states a chance to certify a corrected set of facts.
Yep.
Not
Thank you.
fraudulent or
Just clean up this audio as it happens live.
Previously certified. USA demands the truth.
It was escalating and escalating quickly. So then when that tweet, the Mike Pence tweet, was sent out, I remember us saying that that was the last thing that needed to be tweeted at that moment. The situation was already bad, and so it felt like he was pouring gasoline on the fire by tweeting that.
30 seconds later, rioters already inside the Capitol opened the East Rotunda door just down the hall. And just 30 seconds after that, rioters breached the crypt, one floor below the vice president.
The Secret Service couldn't control the situation and do their job of keeping him safe.
At 2:26 p.m., the Secret Service rushed Vice President Pence down the stairs.
I think they've been trying to figure out whether they had a clear route to get us to wherever it was that they wanted to move us to.
We moved pretty quickly down the stairs and through various hallways and tunnels to the secure location. Upon arriving there, there was further discussion as to whether or not we were going to leave the Capitol complex or stay where we were.
Vice President Pence and his team ultimately were led to a secure location where they stayed for the next 4.5 hours, barely missing rioters a few feet away.
100% would have shot whoever came near him.
That's all there was.
Oh yeah. Oh, the Secret Service?
Yep. The vice president and the mob. Mr. Jacob, you were there, seeing that for the first time. Does it surprise you to see how close the mob was to the evacuation route that you took? The 40 feet is the distance from me to you, roughly.
I could hear the din of the rioters in the building while we moved, but I don't think I was aware that they were as close as that.
What's that? With those, with those fucking radar collectors, are you serious?
The vice president's life was in danger. A recent court filing by the Department of Justice explains that a confidential informant from the Proud Boys told the FBI that the Proud Boys would have killed Mike Pence if
Fuck.
given a chance.
I have no doubt of that.
This
I have
witness,
no doubt of that.
whom the FBI affidavit refers to as W1, stated that other members of the group talked about things they did that day, and they said that anyone they got their hands on, they would have killed, including Nancy Pelosi.
I have no doubt
W1
any of
further
this.
stated that members of the Proud Boys said that they would have killed Mike Pence if given a chance. We understand that congressional leaders and
Would
others
they have taken
were
a different
evacuated from
turn
the
on this
Capitol
if someone
complex
died? Like a
during the
bigwig
attack.
died?
Shit.
I'd like to show you what happened.
I don't know,
after
man.
The vice president was
I don't know.
evacuated
I
from the
want to
Senate.
say yes.
Yeah, I know.
But like the world's gotten so insane.
Select
Like,
Committee has obtained never-before-seen photos from the National Archives
Oh.
that show Vice President Pence sheltering in a secure underground location.
That's a
as
garbage.
rioters
right?
overwhelmed the
I would have
Capitol.
thought it'd be not this.
At 4:19 p.m., Vice
It's the
President
fucking,
Pence
like, loading
is
dock.
seen looking at a tweet the president had just sent, a tweet asking the rioters to leave the Capitol. After 4.5 hours spent on working to restore order, the vice president returned to the Senate floor to continue the certification of electors.
So Vice President Pence was a focus of the violent attack. Mr. Jacob, did the vice president leave the Capitol complex during the attack?
He did not.
Can you please explain why the vice president refused to leave the Capitol complex?
When we got down to the secure location, Secret
garbage
Service
pit.
The
directed
loading
us
dock,
to
man.
get
The
into
trash
cars,
area.
which I did. And then I noticed that the vice president had not. So I got out of the car that I had gotten into, and I understood that the vice president had refused to get into the car. The head of his Secret Service detail, Tim, had said, "I assure you we're not going to drive out of the building without your permission." And the vice president had said something to the effect of, "Tim, I know you, I trust you, but you're not the one behind the wheel." And the vice president did not want to take any chance that the world would see the vice president of the United States fleeing the United States Capitol. He was determined that we would complete the work that we had set out to do.
You know,
that
all
day.
right,
That
fine.
was his
Kudos there.
constitutional duty.
Like, I'll call
one
it
time.
Right.
One time you did something right.
Let me give him the credit
Rioters
though,
who had
right?
reached
Like,
the Capitol would not have the satisfaction of disrupting
Fine.
proceedings beyond
Whatever.
the day on
The
which
president
they were
sicked him on you, so I don't know.
Right.
It's still
It's
bad.
still-
See if I
a
understand this right.
nightmare.
Yeah.
You were told to get in the cars, and how many of the vice president's staff got in the cars while he did not?
Most of us.
During our investigation, we received testimony that while the vice president was in a secure location within the Capitol complex, he continued the business of government. We understand that the vice president reached out to congressional leaders, like the acting Secretary of Defense and others, to check on their safety and to address the growing crisis. In addition, the vice president's chief of staff, Mark Short, made several calls to senior government officials. Here's Mr. Short's testimony regarding his call with Representative Kevin McCarthy.
I hope shit comes down hard on him.
He had
I hope
had
so,
some
too.
conversation. I don't recall whether it was with the president or with somebody at the White House, but I think he'd expressed frustration that not taking the circumstances seriously as they should in that moment.
All right. So Mr. McCarthy indicated he'd been in touch with someone at the White House, and he conveyed to you that they weren't taking this as seriously as they should. You have to answer yes or no.
Yes.
Okay.
You have to answer.
While the vice president made several calls to check on the safety of others, it was his own life that was in great danger. Mr. Jacob, did Donald Trump ever call the vice president to check on his safety?
He did not.
Mr. Jacob, how did Vice President Pence and Mrs. Pence react to that?
With frustration.
Mr. Jacob,
But like
immediately before
everybody
you
in
and the
his
vice
fucking
president were
orbit has been
evacuated to a
betrayed.
secure
Yeah.
location
Like,
within
why
the
would you
Capitol.
think this would be
surprised.
different?
You hit send.
Like,
on
why
an
would you
email
allow
to
yourself to
John
be in the
Eastman
orbit of a
explaining why
fucking
his legal
madman?
theory about the vice president's role was wrong. You ended your email by stating that, quote, "Thanks to your bullshit, we are now under siege." We'll take a look at that email. And Dr. Eastman replied, and this is hard to believe, but his reply back to you was, the siege is because you and your boss, presumably referring to the Vice President of the United States, did not do what was necessary to allow this to be aired in a public way so the American people can see for themselves what happened. Mr. Jacob, later that day, you wrote again to Dr. Eastman. Let's show that email on the screen.
I'm going to fucking kill you.
In that email, you wrote, and I quote, did you advise the president that in your professional judgment, the vice president does not have the power to decide things unilaterally? And you ended that email saying, it does not appear that the president ever got the memo.
I think it's their thing. I don't think it's mine.
Dr. Eastman then replied, he's been so advised. And he ends his email with, quote, but you know him, once he gets something in his head, it's hard to get him to change course.
If you almost get me killed, you don't get an email.
Mr. Jacob, when Dr. Eastman wrote, once he gets something in his head, it's hard to get him to change course. Did you understand the he in that email to refer to the President of the United States?
Oh, for fuck's sake.
I did.
And Mr. Jacob, did you hear from Dr. Eastman further after the riot had been quelled? And if so, what did he ask?
Late that evening, after the joint session had been reconvened, the vice president had given a statement to the nation saying that violence was not going to win, freedom wins, and that the people were going to get back to doing their work. Later that evening, Mr. Eastman emailed me to point out that, in his view, the vice president's speech to the nation violated the Electoral Count Act, that the Electoral Count Act had been violated because the debate on Arizona had not been completed in 2 hours. Of course, it couldn't be since there was an intervening riot of several hours. And that the speeches that the majority and minority leaders had been allowed to make also violated
I am
the
dying
Electoral
to find
Count
out
Act
the
because they
fucking
hadn't
background
been
of that one
counted
video that
against
he
the
made
debate
late in the
time.
day. I can't
Oh, I
wait
know.
to find
He
out.
I know.
implored me, now that we have established that the Electoral Count Act isn't so sacrosanct as you have made it out to be, I implore you one last time, can the Vice President please do what we've been asking him to do?
Oh my
these last
fucking
2
God.
months?
After the
Suspend
siege
joint
still.
session,
Even
send
after.
it back to
Well,
the
there's
state.
some fucking assholes who didn't bother.
And we'll show
He
you
still
the text of
objected.
that email, which Dr. Eastman wrote
That's true.
at 11:44 p.m. on January 6th. So after the attack on the Capitol and after law enforcement had secured the Capitol, he still wrote, as you described, quote, so now that the precedent has been set that the Electoral Count Act is not quite so sacrosanct as was previously claimed,
Sacrosanct is a good word.
I implore you to consider one more relatively minor violation and
Relatively
for 10
minor.
days to allow the legislatures to finish.
And also he's
their
acknowledging it's a violation.
Could you imagine
So
fucking
even after
adjourning
the
for
attack
10
on the
days?
Capitol had been quelled,
and
Dr.
then
Eastman
trying to do it
requested,
on the
The
16th.
in writing,
16th.
no less, that the vice president violate the law by delaying the certification and sending the question back to the states. Is that correct, Mr. Jacob?
It is.
Did you
But it's a
eventually
it's a
share
little
Dr.
it's a
Eastman's
it's a little
proposal
eensy
with
one.
Vice President Pence?
It's an eensy beatsy one.
Not right at that time because the vice president was completing the work that it was.
If you're gonna
intended
fucking
to
break
do.
the law, why 10 days?
But a day or
Why
two
not
later, back
1,000
at the White
days?
House,
Exactly.
I did show him the that final email from Mr. Eastman.
And what was Vice President Pence's reaction when you showed him the email where Dr. Eastman, after the attack on the Capitol, still asked that the vice president delay certification and send it back to the states?
He said, "That's rubber room stuff."
I'm sorry, Mr. Wood. He said it's rubber room stuff?
Yes,
Caliente.
Congressman.
What did you interpret that to mean?
It's crazy.
I understood it to mean that after having seen play out what happens when you convince people that there is a decision to be made in the Capitol legitimately about who is to be the president and the consequences of that, that he was still pushing us to do what he had been asking us to do for the previous 2 days, that was certifiably crazy.
We know that the Vice President did not do what Dr. Eastman requested because he presided over the completion of the counting of electoral votes late in that evening.
The number of electors appointed to vote for President of the United States is 538. Within that whole number, a majority is 270. The votes for President of the United States are as follows. Joseph R. Biden, Jr. of the state of Delaware has received 306 votes. Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 232 votes. The whole number of electors appointed to vote for Vice President of the United States is 538. Within that whole number, a majority is 270. The votes for Vice President of the United States are as follows. Kamala D. Harris of the state of California has received 306 votes. Michael R. Pence of the state of Indiana has received 232 votes.
Wah, wah.
The announcement of the state of the vote by the President of the Senate shall be deemed a sufficient declaration of the persons elected President and Vice President of the United States, each for the term beginning on the 20th day of January, 2021, and shall be entered together with the list of the votes on the journals of the Senate and the House of Representatives.
Mr. Jacob, we heard earlier that you and the Vice President and the team started January 6th with a prayer. You faced a lot of danger that day.
Oh my God, who cares?
And this is a personal question. But how did your faith guide you on January 6th?
Who fucking cares?
Can I fast forward?
Yes. Who fucking cares? Did you fucking pray about it and then nothing fucking changed?
Did you wish at the sky for it to stop happening?
Idiot. Who fucking cares?
White House attorney Eric Hirschman testified that the next day, January 7th, he received a call from Dr. Eastman.
Oh my
Here
God,
is
yes.
Mr. Hirschman's
Yes.
account
My
of that
favorite.
call.
This guy. Did you let him talk to the panda first?
The day after.
That panda's getting closer,
I don't remember why
too.
he called me.
It's like every time the panda's like a little.
I love
wanted
it.
to talk with me.
It's like one of those, like,
He said he
like is
couldn't reach
are the
others.
eyes following me around the room?
And he started to ask me about something dealing with Georgia and preserving something potentially for appeal.
Blueberry preserves?
And
peach tree dishes?
I said to him,
Does that
"Are
panda
you
wear
out of your
pants
effing
like Winnie the
mind?"
Pooh?
Right. I only want to hear two words coming out of your mouth from now on. Orderly transition. And then he screamed, I said, I don't want to hear any other effing words coming out of your mouth, no matter what, other than orderly transition. Repeat those words to me.
Nice.
And I screamed,
What did
that.
he say?
Eventually he said, orderly transition. I said, good, John. Now I'm going to give you the best free legal advice you're ever getting in your life. Get a great effing criminal defense lawyer. You're going to need it. And then I hung up on him.
I sent my bear after him.
No, I hit him with this fucking justice bat.
In fact, just a few days later, Dr.
I heated up
Eastman
one of these
emailed
metal
Rudy
toupees
Giuliani
that was fucking
requested
glowing
that he
hot, and I put it on his
include a
goddamn
list of
head.
potential recipients of a presidential pardon. Dr. Eastman's email stated, quote, I've decided that I
Holy
should
shit.
be on the pardon list, if that is still in the works. Dr. Eastman did not receive his presidential pardon.
Aww.
So let's see what Dr. Eastman did as a result when he was deposed by this committee.
I assert my Fifth Amendment right against being compelled to be a witness against myself.
Did the Trump legal team ask you to prepare a memorandum regarding the vice president's role in the counting of electoral votes at the joint session of Congress on January 6, 2021?
Yeah.
Dr. Eastman, did you advise the President of the United States that the Vice President could reject electors from 7 states and declare that the President had been reelected?
Looks like he aged like 100 years.
Dr.
I
Eastman,
know.
the first
Where's your
sentence of the
fucking
memo
jaunty hat now, asshole?
starts off by saying 7 states have transmitted dual slates of electors to the President of the Senate. Is that statement in this memo true?
Fifth.
You have to
Say
get
fifth.
President Trump
preferred.
authorized you to discuss publicly your January 4th.
I could be this guy's lawyer.
2021
I know.
conversation.
What are you even here for? Should I Yeah, fifth. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a fifth.
Definitely not answering that.
God, you're like the worst caddy in history.
So
Everything's a 5-iron.
5-iron. Yeah.
Direct conversations you have
Grab
with
the
the
5
President of the United States, but you will not discuss those same conversations with this committee.
Fifth. 5.
Dr. Eastman pled the fifth 100 times. Finally, let's hear from a federal court judge, the only one to date who has opined on whether the president was involved in criminal activity. Page 36 of Judge Carter's ruling says, quote, based on the evidence, the court finds it more likely than not that President Trump corruptly attempted to obstruct the joint session of Congress on January 6, 2021.
No shit.
Page 40 of the
We'll
ruling
put that
says,
with the
quote,
vice
based on the
president can't
evidence,
vote for the
court
president.
finds that it is more likely than not that President Trump and Dr. Eastman dishonestly conspired to obstruct the joint session of Congress on January 6th, 2021.
Good.
And page 44.
What does that mean?
Dr. Eastman and
Go to
President
jail.
Trump launched a campaign to overturn a democratic election, an action unprecedented in American history. Their campaign was not confined to the ivory tower. It was a coup in search of a legal theory.
That's a great
way to phrase it.
It's a great line.
Yeah. It's exactly what it was.
Mr. Jacob, what would have happened to our democracy if Vice President Pence had gone along with this plan and certified Donald Trump as the winner of the 2020
Easiest
election?
question. Hit this out of the park with your justice bet.
Right.
So there would have been short-term and long-term effects. The short-term I previously described, a constitutional jump ball situation, political chaos in Washington, lawsuits, and who knows what happening
Riots.
in the streets. And
Riots.
you had the vice president.
Riots.
Right. Yeah. Absolute riots. Crash of the fucking financial system.
Yeah.
Global fucking insecurity.
Were incorrect. So for all of those reasons,
Cats and dogs living together.
significant short-term consequences. But in the long term, we would have established a situation where a vice president would have asserted that one person could have the authority to determine the outcome of an election, which is antithetical to everything in our democracy. It's
I
antithetical
feel like we
to
could
the
have just
rule of
started
law.
this here.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it would have been
It does simplify the whole rock the vote campaign, though.
significant impact.
You really just
You really got to just impress one guy
One
with your
guy.
saxophone.
Real hard.
He wrote that the efforts by President Trump to overturn the 2020 election were, quote, the most reckless, insidious, and calamitous failures in both legal and political judgment in American history. What did you mean by that?
I left this in. They had to wake him up.
Exactly what I said, Congressman.
That's actually a great answer.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Mr. Jacob. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
I think I did leave his last closing statement, and I might fast forward it. So
Okay.
because it's fucking useless, like that guy is.
Gentlemen. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I want that back. Mr. Chairman, this was an informative hearing, a powerful hearing. I'm grateful for your leadership and the leadership of the distinguished Vice Chair. Donald Trump knew he lost the 2020 election, but he could not bring himself to participate in the peaceful transfer of power. So he latched on to a scheme that, once again, he knew was illegal. And when the vice president refused to go along with it, he unleashed a violent mob against him. When we began, I asked,
It's 100% true. All that shit's 100% true.
And I think the answer to that question starts with the fact
What I love is that they
people
laid
in
out
positions of
exactly
power
like the
their
timeline
political
matches
party
him
for
being
their
a
country
fucking malicious,
cannot be
shitty
allowed
person
to
trying to hurt
continue.
someone with his words.
I'll yield back now, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Without objection, the chair recognizes the gentlewoman from Wyoming, Ms. Cheney, for a closing statement.
I may fast forward because she might ask him a
Thank
question.
you very
I don't
much,
know.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you to my colleague, Representative Aguilar, and thank you very much to our witnesses today, Mr. Jacob and Judge Ludig. Thank you for being here with us. We have seen so far in our hearings that President Trump knew that his claims of a stolen election were false. You have seen that he knew that Mike Pence could not legally refuse to count electoral votes. And you have seen what President Trump did to pressure Mike Pence into taking illegal action. Over the course of our next hearings, you will see information about President Trump's efforts, John Eastman efforts, the Trump legal team's efforts to apply pressure to Republican state legislatures, state officials, and others. Judge Carter has recently written, quote, Dr. Eastman's actions in these few weeks indicate that his and President Trump's pressure campaign to stop the electoral count did not end with Vice President Pence. It targeted every tier of federal and state elected officials. We will examine all of those threats, and we will examine the Trump team's determination to transmit materially false electoral slates from multiple states to officials of the executive and legislative branches of our government. We will examine the pressures put on state legislatures to convene to reverse lawful election results. An honorable man receiving the information and advice that Mr. Trump received from his campaign experts and his staff, a man who loved his country more than himself, would have conceded this election.
It's fucking true.
Indeed, we know that a number of President Trump's closest aides urged him to do so. This committee will address all of these issues in greater detail in the coming weeks. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Young lady yields back. Judge Ludick and Mr. Jacob, our nation owes you a great debt for your knowledge, integrity,
I don't know about
your
that.
loyalty to our Constitution.
I don't feel like I owe a lot of debt to Judge Ludick.
You and Vice President Pence are exactly the people our nation needed at a critical time. You had the courage to do what was right. In the weeks leading up to January 6th, many people failed this test when they had to choose between their oath to the country or the demands of Donald Trump.
A lot of fucking Republicans
But there
failed it
were
on the
others
6th.
who, like you, stood
They
tall
sure did.
in the face of intimidation and put our democracy first. They include the judges who rejected the bogus claims of election fraud,
Even
the
Trump
senior
appointed
Justice
judges.
Department
Yeah.
officials
All
who
of them.
stood up to Donald Trump, and the state officials whom we will hear from at our next hearing. We are deeply grateful to your courage and devotion to our country. There are some who think the danger has passed, that even though there were violence and a corrupt attempt to overturn the presidential election, the system worked. I look at it another way. Our system nearly failed and our democratic foundation destroyed.
What's wrong?
But for people like you.
I'll tell you in a minute.
Judge Ludick, I want to give you an opportunity to share your thoughts on the ongoing threat.
Oh my God.
Written the clear and present danger to our democracy.
Why would you call on
That
this guy
is that
again?
Former President Donald Trump and other political
It's 8 minutes left. Do we watch it or no?
We'll watch a minute of it or so.
to seize the presidency.
But if it's
in 2024,
It's the same, I'll fast forward.
yeah.
or one
They
of
don't
his
make enough
anointed
coffee.
Candidates
They
is
don't.
not elected by the American people. What do you mean by this?
The being of the being.
It's exactly that.
It's fucking just.
It's fucking Heidegger, dude.
Mr. Chairman, I'm honored beyond words by your words.
Words
I was
are.
honored on January 6, 2021. Then also honored beyond words to have been able to come to the aid of Vice President Mike Pence. I prayed that day, just like
You got to pray just to make it today.
the Vice President prayed.
This fucking guy.
I like the guy that's leaving.
Well, I know. I'm that guy. Holy shit.
Are we done?
Yeah, man. He's not saying anything. This man is
Present.
human garbage. Who
I wish
cares?
you said beyond words and just stop
that are
talking.
informed by other investigative people. January 6th.
Okay, this is just the end. It's just the end.
Yeah. All right.
There you can view the evidence.
All right, let me call chat for a minute. So we can
Not
tell you
as
guys what we're doing.
engaging as the first one.
No, and I feel
But it's
like
important.
I feel like this one was super important, but I feel like if I would have had another 2 hours with this footage, I could have edited this down to 25 minutes too.
Yeah,
pretty
right. I think
easily
so.
edited this
Yeah.
down to 25 minutes. I just didn't have time with the footage. By the time I literally downloaded it like 25 minutes before you came.
Yeah,
and then I had
dude,
to
you
edit
had-
it. We just did. I just didn't.
you
have
did a
time.
Herculean
But I
job
think
of doing
we could
anything.
Have,
Yeah.
I think we could have edited that down. So our plan is next week. They're going to do 2 more hearings on Tuesday and Thursday.
Why do they got to
They're
do them on
both gonna
Thursdays?
do-
Don't they know we podcast
Yeah,
on
and they're gonna
Thursdays?
They're going to do a Thursday one at 1 and the other one at 1. But the good news is that I don't have a standing meeting that day.
Oh.
I normally do, but I don't that day on the Thursday. So my plan is to watch it, take notes, and then when I can finally download it, I can then edit it.
Then you can cut some shit
Now, Ian, I want to ask you a question. It took me a while until YouTube finally figured out that the video was like, it takes it a while for it to like process after it's live streamed. Is there a way to like capture it while it streams?
Yeah, we have it in Restream.
No. I'm talking about the video that they're streaming. Like
Oh,
I want to get the whitehouse.gov one while they stream it.
Yeah, can he capture the video
it somehow
contemporaneously
while
when
I'm
it's airing?
streaming it, and then as soon as it's done, I'd be able to edit it?
I mean, yeah, we could record in OBS.
Okay, let's see if we can figure that out next week.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys. What's up?
Wait, we have a couple links in the doc that they wanted us to play just because they think it's funny. Chat.
Okay.
specifically.
All right.
If you want to look at those real quick.
Links in the doc.
I have a bunch of super chats.
So why don't you read those while I get the stuff called up?
Okay. So let's see what those super chats.
I think from now on, I'm going to
I'm gonna punch you in the fucking neck. I
do the
swear to
show
God. I swear to God, Tom.
in a revised cadence.
Oh, this is so good. Tom, this is so good. Yes, you will remember this.
Okay.
So here we go.
There's 2 of them.
I'm gonna play the bottom one first. So
Well, do the bottom one is the longer one.
Okay, I'll do this one
The first one is Animaniacs. That one.
I'm actually going to re-record our entire audiobook.
that'd be amazing. Like fucking William Shatner. That guy
The grand-
in the movie.
William Shatner's got some
gotta
energy,
play
though.
that guy.
Oh,
yeah, right?
That would be
In the movie, Shatner's
amazing.
got to play that guy. All right, so this is the
Shatner's at least.
We got to play this.
Got energy and verb.
We got to play this.
Totally insane. They pushed me out and maced me.
I love this.
I gotta watch it again. It's the best. It's so fucking amazing.
Totally insane. They pushed me out and maced me.
I love it so much. It's so good.
Oh God!
Bottle off.
That is the
amazing.
best thing
All right,
ever.
so here's the variations.
They
Tom.
pushed me down and maced me.
This one is slightly different because they got demonetized for using the Animaniacs thing.
All right,
the
so-
Shlomo guys. But,
And now, the nations of the world brought to.
Oh wait,
here we go.
That's not, yeah.
They took away our meme, schmoes.
Should have had that copy time. Just skip to the next section
What's that?
if you want to. Skip to the next section.
It's a
Like,
minute
they
30
explain what
seconds.
was
It's a minute
All right.
30 seconds.
Yeah, this is actually taking more time.
What can we do? Nothing but despair. And fight back by animating an entirely new parody show and recording a new parody song to preserve, even if imperfectly, a meme that once lived. So let us imagine, what if Wacko was wearing a backwards MAGA hat this whole time and hit us with a strike out of vengeance? These were the last days of MAGA Maniacs.
MAGA Maniacs.
Absolutely crazy. They pushed me out and maced me.
Our reality collapsed.
Absolutely crazy. They pushed me out and maced me.
I need 11,780.
Floating
through the central banking.
We're signing Nick Mulvaney. Walked out and some lady. They kicked me off the plane. impeachment from Liz Cheney. I didn't feel the sense of shady. Walked into the Cheney mega meeting.
Okay. Can't stay. We're going to the Capitol. Trump by comeback.
We're coming for you, and we're going to have a good time doing it.
Oh my God.
You're very special.
Yo ho! That was awesome.
That was
Those are really
So good.
absolutely brilliant.
That was so good.
So amazing. So much funnier.
That was
than,
so good.
That was so much. That's such a great way to end the night too. It's like fucking tight ass club and like to have that. The only comic relief is a guy with a fucking panda and a reverse panda.
What the? Why don't we have a justice bet?
Tom, we need a justice bet.
We need a justice bet.
Got to put a justice bet in Ruth Bader Ginsburg's
Oh,
hand.
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, Ian, you said there's super chats?
Yeah, a bunch of super chats from Johan. Thanks for your podcast. You have given my life some more happiness. Love listening while I do the dishes. From Johan in Sweden. Shout outs. Type G for Gary in the chat if your team normal. Okay, no, wait, that's a Sarah. Never mind. I'm going to skip Sarah's.
Don't. She paid money for that.
And if you want to satisfy yourself, head to Adam and Eve. That's also from Sarah. From Keith says, thanks for staying awake, Ian. Sarvis says, this is what you'd get if William Shatner had a concussion. Okay. Sarvis also says, you could probably fit every word that man said here in a single tweet.
Yeah, I don't think that's wrong.
Chelsea says Judge Ludwig is definitely not sandbagging. He's given lots of other interviews and speeches about Jan 6 and how horrible Trump is. So, okay.
But why does he always sound like that?
I don't know. Maybe.
Why would anybody let that man give a speech?
Yeah.
Hold on a second. So Sarah runs our Facebook.
Yeah.
And so very often we get the saddest emails from people who so like finally a white guy doesn't get his voice heard and he gets so sad. So I want to read this one real quick.
Oh yeah.
Shut off comments is very typical of a left-wing media group. Oh, hey, we got comments we want, then censor everyone else. 20 million views comparable to a huge sporting event, even at an early morning showing. I don't even know what that means. I literally have no idea what that sentence means. Come on, man. Not a single legit link to a real rating on your post. What you're afraid of legit commentary, or was it your opinion voiced and you shut it off? What are you afraid of? I think he had a stroke.
What? I'm afraid of American
Sarah,
education.
Sarah, thank you. You make so many people angry and it's the best. They are so mad. He's fucking furiously fat fingering us.
I can't believe you guys don't want to hear what I have to say. You can't articulate what you want to say.
You can't articulate anything anyway. Nobody cared in the first place.
You're inarticulate. What are you adding to the conversation with your fucking word salad? Did he really?
No.
He did.
Oh.
It's a plumbing company. It's Joe the plumber. He finally came back. Guys. We got more. I'm sorry I interrupted you, Ian. Go ahead.
Plumber.
Go ahead.
Grant, my wife said that the panda painting is in Christian Gray's office in 50 Shades. If Gray, I guess that explains a lot. Or explains a bat, sorry. Yeah. Johan says for the Ian Support Fund, thank you very much. We should all donate to the Ian Support Fund, thank you very much. And the Superior Ian says, all right, it's bedtime. I've got an evaluation flight tomorrow. Wish me luck.
Good luck.
Good luck, Superior
on a flight.
Ian.
I feel like you need more than luck for a flight. It seems like a scary thing to rely on luck for.
All right, guys. Next week, I'm going to try to cut down the first one. So the first one that's going to happen on Tuesday, I'm going to try to cut that down. I'm guessing I'm going to try to cut it down at I'll probably try to work on it and try to get it down to like that 25-minute mark because I'll have like a couple days to work on it. The one that's going to come next Thursday, I'm also going to try to cut down because like Ian said, we can maybe just see if we can record it ahead of time on our own thing. And then I'll just have the video and can maybe get working on it like 2. And that way that'll give us a little bit of time. If I can get them both down then we'll probably watch the abridged versions. We didn't really want to watch this long version anyway. So I'll do my best. The second one almost certainly will be a little longer, but it's gonna be a long stream again next week, we think.
Yeah, we think so.
We think it'll probably be a long stream again next week. But we want to thank everybody for joining us. These streams look like they're popular. It looks like more people are joining us. So thanks for sticking around. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff you got to do. Share this with your friends. But we got a little bit more show to record, so we got to go. So thanks so much for joining us tonight, and we'll catch you next week with the other 2 hearings next week, okay? Tell all your friends.
Yeah.
We got to go.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Wait, hold on. I got it. Hold on.
All right.
Thanks.
No, that's no. No.
To you.
No.
The listeners.
No. We're going.
Cognitive.
All right, we're leaving.
Also, Lou and Sarah
Dissonance.
are now officially mods on the YouTube channel. So
perfect.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Fucking slap that nonsense down.
Whether they liked it or not.
All right, bye, guys.